And if we push the little red button to where it turns green,
Here we go.
then we are on microphone and recording.
All right.
And I'm going to record there. This is a good test run for us.
Yeah. Do you know we need to get going?
We are,
Or do you want us to wait for a second?
She's got all the control over her.
no.
She's like,
She's the lady who can be
No,
the shit.
it's,
She is.
yes, mate.
how's Daisha?
Dacia's heart's catching up with her.
Is it?
Yeah, my son's like, Mom, can you take a work? I'm like, I've got a meeting at 5 o'clock.
Oh.
You know, we're planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on Monday.
Hey there.
Started calling in.
Go for it. Regular. Okay.
I believe we're recording.
Just so like, you kind of.
Why wouldn't you be?
The only thing I can think of is a call.
You got this.
It's fine.
I filled out eating on
I mean, it's
YouTube.
connected.
I know, I was like,
It's connected.
it's fine.
Not bad enough to not do it.
I'm trying to do
William,
shit.
Scott was
Scott, you
like,
should not have said that.
I'm not, I might not see you.
You know what I think about
I said,
that?
you can watch me on YouTube. And he's like, you'll be on
Hey, Leo.
YouTube. You're going to be famous. And I was like, yeah.
There we go. Now
Going
we're no
viral.
longer worried about it. Candace dispelled that for everybody.
Oh, Robert brought water. Does anybody need water?
I'm good.
I'm good,
Bottle
thank
of
you.
water? You'll take a
I'll take
bottle of
one,
water?
that'd be great.
Where'd you put it at, Robert? Okay. How many waters do we need?
I can just grab a
Take
case.
another one.
You want to grab a case, Robert?
Robert,
Thanks,
thank
Robert.
you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
You just go ahead and some bottles so we don't ask
Get moving.
Kevin where it came from.
As long as it's not yellow, it's okay.
Just get started. We can move mine further down the list if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's,
Okay.
we're going to do
There's some chips.
them, her, me, and then we can do Leo, Mike, Robert.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to our annual budget work session. We're gonna go ahead and we will go down the list of each area. If each department and each area could go ahead and give a brief 10 to 15 minute overview of your budget, and then we can discuss questions so that we can keep time management appropriately throughout departments. That would be wonderful if there are any questions. If we can keep the questions until the department head has completely gone through the entirety of their section, that would be much appreciated.
Okay,
Alright.
so we're gonna start with general fund and court. So at the top, it'll say court, general fund.
Court general fund. Oh, we'll start with me first. Oh, okay.
In the court.
Court, and then
Oh,
you-
sorry. I only heard half that conversation.
Does everyone have a copy of our proposed budget? Basically, essentially identical to last year's with 3 exceptions. We've had an increase in bank charges, so we went up from 2,500 to 2,700. At the very bottom on the maintenance service agreement, that's gone up from 7,870 to 8,400. The primary change is the jail fees. We've increased that from 45,000 to 55,000. And the reason being that the county has upped the cost per day that we have to pay. We pay $147 a day for every one of our prisoners that are up at the jail. Unfortunately, we've had an increase in jail stay by a select few, but they just don't think that they have to abide by the law or pay their fees. And so we ended up having to issue warrants for their arrest, and they then get in jail, and we leave them in there until the next meeting, you know. Hopefully they'll bond out and we get paid, but that doesn't happen. But there's just a select few. But the current actual expenditures for jail fees is at $89.28, and for some reason we have not gotten a current status of charges to what we owe. That only represents 2 months worth of jail stay up there, and so but if that's an average, you know, we're 6 times that. I mean, we're almost at the end of the budget right there. But with the increase, we just asked for an extra $10,000 for the jail fees. That's the only difference between this year and last. Any questions?
If you ever ask if you need questions, I usually have them. Couple things. I mean, I understand that the jail fees have gone up, but if you look across historically, you're like almost double what it's been historically. So is that 55,000 realistic? I mean, I understand there's an increase, but did they double them?
No, they only went up from 141 a day to 147 a day.
So, I mean, that figure seems a little bloated to me.
We're having repeat offenders, people who are coming back with multiple DUIs. And now with the intoxilants, if they're caught without driving with an intoxilant, by state statutes have mandated a mandatory 7-day jail sentence.
Okay.
We're running into that.
So is that brand new this year?
No,
So then it
We're
should have been
having more.
reflected. I don't know, just seems kind of high.
If I can weigh in an opinion.
Okay.
I have an opinion that the court's asked is reasonable because we have some people that, for instance, I had a warrant the other day from when Zach Gentile was the chief, that they have not made square with the town.
Mhm.
And the mayor and I had talked with Scott in court, I don't know, 5-6 weeks ago about some of these people, and we need to probably, obviously get some justice out of them instead of them blowing us off forever and a day. So projecting that these people are gonna get dealt with is why the ask is over there. It's partially my fault, Councilman.
So double. I don't think is, I mean, I don't have a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem with budgets that are realistic, but I also don't think we need to pad them.
I don't feel it's padded. I'll speak up
Okay.
because of the fact I do them in jail for 3 and 4 weeks simply because they just don't care.
So you're,
They literally have told the judge that they will never pay him a dime.
so,
And the figure right there, it's almost 9,000 for the year, but that's only 2 months.
okay, that's my question. That was my question. So in other words,
They're
that
very, very
8,900
slow at billing.
is not realistic. Okay, that's fine.
Not at all for the year.
Now, this other, why are, and this is like for all the budgets, why are our bank charges, what are those? Why are they so high? Seems like the
Credit
banks
card
ought to be
fees.
paying us.
Credit card fees is what it really is.
So we can't pass that credit card fee back on to somebody that wants to use a credit card? Everybody else does.
we could, but mayor and council previous had not wanted to.
Okay. I want to.
You want to?
I think it's gotten to the point where the fees and stuff, before when you were, I mean, if you look across, I mean, that's figures of basically doubling. And I think it's probably time that we look at that.
We just went to express bill pay for all our credit cards on our side and significantly cheaper, so you will see a bit of a reduction next year.
Okay, so we don't need to increase that from 2,500 to
She
2,700?
still has you still have your credit
We
card
still have
terminal.
to do our other one, because we're having trouble with, between our software and Express Bill Pay, getting them to take the credit cards. So we're having to basically enter them through, First Data.
Okay, is there a way to fix that?
We've tried talking to the software company and we're not getting, not good.
Okay.
Yeah, the software, so.
I guess the only suggestion I'd have there is maybe we need to change bank charges to credit card fees. Does that make sense? Then it won't,
I can do bank / credit card
Yeah,
because some of them
sure.
will,
yeah,
some of them
I know,
are
yeah.
big.
After a while, you buy stuff out so bad that you can't find anything.
Any other questions?
What is, and I'm assuming the court appointed attorneys, that's for the defense, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, just. I think that's all I got on that.
Other council members, any questions about this section?
It might be a little bit redundant, but with the jail fees, back to the 2020, 21. Why was it so much like 11,000 and like that year? Was just more of a question about it.
Crime is,
I mean, well, that's where I just was kind of curious.
we,
It seemed like it just jumped a lot.
we can't predict, so like in 2019, 2020, like the COVID coming into it, we had a skyrocket in call volume. Went up, of course, when we have an increase, they're gonna have an increase.
Right.
Took a little bit, so it comes down, but it goes in waves, so that's part of why we.
Yeah,
see
I
those.
that was just one of those, I know I'm coming in on the 23rd hour of all this, so that's why I was just, that was such a massive range from just like 3 years ago of
Yeah, like
what it was.
once-
That's why I was just curious.
Once kind of the lockdown stuff sided off after about 6 months, we typically see 400 to 500 calls a month, and we were having many months in a row of 800 calls a month. Like it was a lot. So that's part of why you see that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, obviously that was years ago. That's why it was more curiosity than anything.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, quandaries of the mind? Okay, anything else that you guys would like to add?
I don't have anything. You need to butt into everything. Since I play with it all the way.
Okay,
Next up will be general
Thank you.
government.
I'm not
thank
ready.
you boys for coming.
Have a good evening.
General fund.
So you'll have general government, general fund, community center, general fund, town clerk, general fund, and mayor council, general fund. Those are all general.
Got a list.
So under the general government, general fund, on the back sheet, there's kind of a breakdown that kind of explains where some of the monies are going to. On that, I think really for the most part, we've kind of held status quo. One of the things I did keep in is the YCC. Last year, he came to us and was asking for, was it 20,000 or
I think it was
10,000?
10,000.
10,000. And what we had decided at that point was to go with $2,000 because I think at that point we'd only had maybe 6 kids there.
Well,
Are we on the, I'm sorry, the general fund, the general government? Okay, that's where.
initially he said that we, the PD, brought in like 50-cent kids. I was like, no, we had like 5 that we assisted parents taking them there because we don't make them go there. The parents have to sign them up. So we had like 5 or 6 that we assisted with. Now, if other people in the community are taking their kids that we don't know about,
Right.
that's different. So clarify that.
So I did just a week ago send the check for $2,000 for the 2023-2024 funding. And I went ahead and budgeted $2,000 again for this next year, so.
How's everybody feeling about that? Because last year we had right around that 6 to 7 child mark for going to YCC. Do we want to continue to provide $2,000 for this coming budget for YCC? Or do we feel like it should be a different cost? Granted, this is subjection, so we're never really gonna know how many kids are actually there.
Yeah, and it's not
I mean, for this
for
upcoming.
parents who either through lack of parenting or can't control their kids. It's an option for the parents to take them to. It's a community service, but the reality is if I take, I won't pick on you today. If I take
You were
Leo there.
looking right at me.
So, if Leo's my kid and I can't control him and I take Leo there, they can't legally keep Leo there. There's nothing,
You can drop him
It's-
off and he can go, nope, I'm
yeah,
leaving.
and it does. Now, granted, if the kids are unruly, they can call the police department and we're gonna come deal with it. But again, there's only so much we can do. It's not really a thing that we deal with, unlike CAP, which I painted last year, and I have some stats about CAP when we had that discussion. But I know that Casper gave substantially to YCC, but we're not Casper's budget, and we don't have those same statistics and issues.
The other item, which is under the category 1043-450, I do have earmarked in there the $27,920 for CPU, and that's to handle our internet cybersecurity issues that I had reached out before on that, and I'm not sure what direction we want to go there. If anybody isn't sure, the link, that is the bus that drives around town and goes to all the different bus stop locations within town. I left that the same. I just received the bill last week. And the other one is the Assist. That is what was referred to as the CATSI. It's the one that goes door to door. It's specific to and location when people call it in. I'm sorry. Yes, the Assist. And it also helps reduce the cost of people that qualify, that if they're disabled or they're low income, they qualify for reduced tickets. And so that can help pay for that. They have not billed us. 2022-23 was they were in a transition, changing from management and Casper having to take it back over, so they didn't bill us in 2022-2023. In 2023-24, we have not seen a bill on that yet, so.
So that 38,000 is all of those figures together, is that what that is?
The 38,000, that's to help pay for the bus. That's the one that drives from bus stop to bus stop.
Okay,
Yes, the link. Used to be the bus. And now it's the link, and I still call it the bus.
No worries with us.
Any questions on that one?
What's the Cassell? Is it Cassell? Is that how you pronounce it?
Cassell,
Cassell.
that's our software. That's our accounting software that
Okay,
handles our
okay.
utility billing, payroll, accounts payable, general ledger, assets, business licenses.
It's much needed. These little printouts, that all comes from Cassell.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just didn't know what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, so we
Hey,
paid for
Janelle, I
software
actually have a
support.
For our, for your council budget for like the conferences and stuff, did you consider increasing that?
No, because when the budgets were due to be
Okay.
turned in, was not aware, but I mean, we talked about having to increase that. I have not increased that. I'm not real sure where exactly.
And we can talk about that when we get to that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I just seen on this page and that's why I thought, sorry.
Yeah. So as to not confuse. Any questions on the general government?
Is cap in general,
No, no.
government, or is that in my budget?
That's in yours.
No, Michael.
What's with the fireworks 1,000?
So in the past, we have contributed, they didn't ask us last year, but in the past, we have contributed to the city of Casper,
Oh, it's that big one?
to the big one.
I was like, what's Mike got planned?
Yeah.
I was like,
No.
did you not plan?
Planning aid, you wait more.
Well, that's why I was like, this seems like a
Yeah.
sparkler
Yeah.
budget. Let's see what's happening.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts for this one?
Are we, I guess I'm a little bit confused on, under professional services,
Uh-huh.
and that went from 18.6 to 42.8. Am I on the right page? Or maybe I'm not even on the right page.
So if you go to the next page,
This page right here.
this page here,
Mhm.
it's got it broken down. Wyoming financial is $7,000, audit is $5,250, drug pool of testing 2,000, and CPU is the 27,920.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
where, okay,
Yeah.
nope, I got you.
Yeah, the
So-
CPU is a big portion of that.
Yeah, so what's Wyoming Financial, what are we paying them for?
Wyoming Financial and admins are health insurance. The health, dental, they're an admin, they manage it.
Okay.
Or they help us manage it. They were
And
6,000.
negotiate, Yeah.
They negotiate, they're the ones that go out to all the different providers to see if they want to,
Such a deal.
there's a lot to it that I wouldn't be able to do.
I was an agent for 20 years and I didn't charge anything. As long as they're not making commissions, it's fine.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Any additional questions, thoughts, comments? Anything that doesn't look,
What is the senior citizens? It's right under animal control. What is that?
So we provide a site for the seniors to have their lunches up at the community center.
Okay.
We also make a monetary donation to put towards that to provide the food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was curious what
Yeah,
that was.
yeah, that's what that is.
Very cool.
I had one more question on
Mhm.
utilities, and this isn't just, this is probably for all of them.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm assuming that you guys made allowances for all the increases that Rocky Mountain Power is.
Yep.
Because that could be, what, like close to 35%?
Yeah, so I believe last year, let me find. I believe last year we bumped it up 22%. I'm trying to remember. And it seems to be we're okay. So I left it at the 44,400 because the previous year we had expended the 37,000, a little over 37,000. So,
Okay, because I know they're after another one now, and then supposedly they're suing to get their first one back.
when clearly they had made the statement that the increase was going to go help out in another state, or I read
Mhm.
something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, kind of.
And same with natural gas. Natural gas has kind of been,
Well, and we had a pretty neat winter.
We
I
did.
mean, if we
We
get
did.
one like we had the year before.
Yeah.
We got
And
a whole
that's-
new ballgame.
and that's why I left it at the 10,000.
Okay, yep.
Yep.
I had no problem with that. I just wanted to make sure that we, and then, who do we get our telephone coverage, or telephones are through, is that through CenturyLink?
No, well, so we do have bills that come from CenturyLink. Then we've got bills that come from AT&T Net First,
Personally,
or FirstNet, and then Verizon. So it just depends on what department. Police and fire qualified for the AT&T FirstNet, because it's a priority type thing. And is that at a reduced rate for your guys's?
yeah. So,
And then like Public Works, and then some of the fire department, like their laptops and whatnot, their heart monitors and stuff, those are all through Verizon.
Okay, so some of that's internet. Is some of that
Yes.
internet also?
Yep.
Okay,
well, for us, most of the fire department is internet,
Okay.
because it'll be the FirstNet SIM cards for our computers, and then the Verizon SIM cards that have to go into our cardiac monitors to transmit rhythms to the hospital.
okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I understand the emergency stuff, but what about, have we ever priced out like some of the other stuff, like for the office and Public Works, that type of thing?
So some of the, like Public Works and the water plant, they're on Spectrum. Their phone is Spectrum. Some of the lines that we have, I think, are at such a point that we necessarily, they're CenturyLink, they're direct lines into the sheriff, they're the 911 line. Eventually, what our goal is to get some of our landlines switched over to VoIP. But we're not there yet.
Okay.
And our internet is Mountain West and we don't pay for that.
You don't pay for that because of the tower and stuff.
So that's what we're working towards, everybody getting on Mountain West, so we don't have the internet.
And to be able to switch over to VoIP.
Okay.
My
Is that-
number,
Is that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
are you sure?
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
You're done.
Nope.
Okay, line number 10-43-140, employee benefits, unemployment. Are we just keeping that as a slush fund for the next pandemic, or?
You
That's
know-
2 years since COVID, was pretty stable, right at $3,000. Now we're-
It's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's a
can see
tough
where
one to know whether to budget high or not. I did drop it a little bit.
Okay,
It just
That's what I figured.
depends on if we have a high turnover.
okay,
Most times you can't predict.
exactly.
Any additional questions? Okay.
Okay, next we got community center general fund.
This is for the community center, up the street here. I think probably the big thing on that is, we need to have our security cameras DVR looked at. And I'm not sure until they get into it, because the cameras, are original 2010, and so I've got High Tech scheduled to come out. He's supposed to be looking at the DVR, and he said once he gets into the DVR, he may have to look at replacing the cameras as well. And so I asked him if they could come out and kind of get started under this year's budget to kind of figure out what we need, and then finish up with if we have to replace cameras and stuff under the new budget.
So that's what the equipment expense is?
Mhm.
And what's Rogue?
Rogue, they're a company, they come in and do all the backflow testing for the sprinkler, because the building's sprinkler, fire alarm,
Oh,
and the
okay.
sprinkler systems and stuff.
Annual testing.
Any additional questions?
Okay, next up, town clerk, general fund.
And so, under the maintenance and service agreements, 1044, 874, again, you'll see Cassell. Because we take those total dollars that's spent and we divvy it up amongst various departments.
So again, that equipment expense is,
We're budgeting for new computers.
Yes. Our computers are 5 years old,
oh my God,
and
yeah, it's okay. Okay,
it's, yeah. The goal is to try, and that's one of the things that we're waiting on CPU to do, is the CPU is supposed to go in and do an inventory of all our computers and figure out the ages of them, so that we start replacing every so often periodically, so that we're not all replacing our
Sounds the same
computers all
time.
at
Good thought.
once.
Yep.
So
good thinking.
What is registrations?
registrations is going to pay for like WAM conferences or any kind of training that we go to.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
And I will mention, if we can get our training for free, like what we did back in February.
Mhm.
Take advantage of it.
Okay, next up is mayor, council, general fund.
And so, somebody mentioned earlier about the registrations, Daisha. So as you can see in the past, we've really not spent any money under the registrations, travel expenses and lodging and meals until I think last year or the year before when Greg started going.
Yeah,
Um,
not last January.
So we're gonna run out of money this year. And so I did up that budget, and I don't know, I got registrations at $1,250. I've got travel expenses at $800, and then lodging and meals I budgeted at $1,200.
And I would think as time goes on, I think it's really important for us to be, as sitting council members, it's important for us to be attending WAM conferences.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to be having that voice and having that presence and making sure that we're staying educated and up to speed on what's happening from a legislative perspective. So I think it is important for us to continue to go to these said things, because there is a lot of good, solid information that is coming out of these conferences, and we might potentially miss some of that information if we don't attend this stuff. Because not every conference is going to be in Casper or in a surrounding close area. So I think it's important that we have a face or a voice, or at least one or two people minimum that are attending, specifically WAM. If there's additional, trainings or additional things that are out there, I think that it is important for us to budget for that in the future, especially if we want to stay up to speed with what's going on.
Then I assume that when you cut another check for council people, that 11 will go to 19, close.
Yeah, and when I do the budget on the wages, I believe I budget for an extra 2 meetings in a year, just in case. We have to have a special meeting or something. Is that it for that?
And then telephone is the cell phone.
Yeah,
it's,
it's
cell phone
that is
for-
something new, and it's because, especially because her phone has her company on it. We
I have
want,
to keep things separate due to legal reasons. I won't compromise my company stuff with mayor stuff. They have to be separate. Those conversations need to be separate.
For sure.
Any other questions?
Janelle, was that in an account for the conversation that we had about work sessions?
no, in fact, I don't know if I had Scott in on that email, because we had done these budgets beforehand.
Uh-huh.
But I do have an email into Aaliyah
Okay.
with that very question. And I'm gonna have to probably circle that back around, because I never heard back from her. And I
So-
think that was before she went on vacation before.
So what we're potentially talking about is I had proposed that council members should be getting paid to attend work sessions. Not at the same amount that we would get paid to make specific choices and decisions in council sessions, but that council members should be getting paid for work sessions for your time being here in attendance. Other municipalities in this county do pay their council members to attend work sessions and or specified community functions that the mayor cannot attend.
And so
So-
one of the things that, sorry,
No, sorry, not
one of the things that we have to keep in mind is you as the governing body cannot pass an ordinance setting what you're gonna be paid for yourself. It is something that would go into the next fiscal year, or I'm sorry, the next calendar year. So if it is something that Aaliyah or Scott say yes, that we can do that, then we will be presenting an ordinance for approval, setting those new fees.
And that would take place after election.
And that would take place
After the election.
January of 2025, yes.
And the other smaller municipalities in this county all have a fee that the council members are paid in the event that they have to do work sessions or community outings. I have double checked that part of it. And so in my mind, I feel as though it is important that, yes, it is important to do our due diligence and volunteer our time, especially when we're on these boards, but I would also like to see folks being seen, heard, and compensated for the time that we are putting into taking time away from our personal lives and our families while coming here and working through making decisions that are gonna move the town forward. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think it's great. I guess I assumed you guys were getting paid for work sessions. Surprise!
Why do you say
Happy
you guys,
Halloween.
Alana? That
Well,
includes
you guys are getting paid, but I mean, you guys are hourly employees, but that's why I get
No,
their
they're
salary.
salary.
Salary?
Their salary, so
Yeah.
That's no
whole nother
fun.
topic of discussion.
So yes, we're getting
Maybe
paid,
they
but
can-
not any extra.
In a roundabout way?
A roundabout
Right.
way?
Mayor,
Okay.
maybe while we're looking at that, we could even look at, like, yours is on a monthly basis, that maybe instead of doing the weekly thing, the meeting thing, maybe it could change and just be a monthly fee so you could budget for it. Like right now, it's like 150, and if you raised it to, just as throwing a figure out there, like 200, then that would cover that for the year. Make it simple.
I'll have to,
Might
close
save
that-
Janelle a
close
little
that.
bit of work and tracking too.
It's all right. It's only
It's all right.
twice a year that I
You
do
don't
it,
mind
so.
spying on us, is that what you're saying?
No, I just-
No, I'm just
Present, absent, present,
Absent,
absent.
She's got her system down.
saying. Anyway, just a
When
thought.
I double check it, I'm like,
Just making a note of that. Any other questions, thoughts? Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about what I'm potentially proposing for work sessions?
No, I thought it was great. It's,
Because if there are any concerns, please tell me.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Just a portion of what we're getting.
Thank you.
Not gonna have too many work sessions, are we?
Move things forward without them.
Well, you know,
Maybe
that's another
I
conversation.
can stack up a lot of stuff for work sessions.
All right, now I'm gonna keep an eye on all you want all these work sessions. All right.
Next up, we have finance, general fund. And that would be my department. So wages is for mine and the utility clerk.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Finance.
Finance,
Was that in that same spot?
Yeah, there was a separate one.
Okay.
It's
That's what it looks like right there. There, oh, that's fire.
Another bundle.
yeah.
Oh,
it should be
there it is.
bundled,
Okay.
Cause those are all my budgets.
Lots of papers.
And they- It should be bundled.
There's finance general fund.
All right.
Those are all
Okay,
my budgets.
Just a second.
So those are the ones we're gonna go over. So my wages and Jan's wages are split between general fund and then enterprise, so that's why it's on the lower side there. And again, we budgeted for computers.
It's not happening.
But other than that, really no change.
Free, did you find yours?
No, oh, okay.
He helped me.
Oh, okay. There's a man.
They're bundled.
Bundles. Fire general rep. Oh,
You're so good.
They're all in the
Is it
exact
only-
same order.
It was only
Thank
like the 20th one. I think, so.
all right. Continue.
I'll get this.
You're right.
Chief Thompson still on.
Yes.
No need to do that.
Yeah,
No need to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised I'm keeping myself contained in a corner.
I agree.
Since Greg stole my council stole
Cleaned up back. Apologize, chief.
I even had
Yeah,
Mark.
take a meeting. I think I did.
Paper here.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Scott's counterpart not kept me downstairs.
Does everybody,
Yes.
okay, and does everybody know, because we have general and we have enterprise. So when I say finance general fund, that's coming out of the general. Enterprise is what we collect for utilities. And then that funds like water treatment, distribution, wastewater, sanitation. And that fund has to be self-sustaining. So that's the difference between the general fund and enterprise.
Does everyone understand that?
General enterprise, because we're doing all general right now and then we'll jump over to enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah.
Any questions on the finance?
Looks way too clean to me.
I like to keep it simple. Emergency management. Leo is our appointed emergency management person for Evansville, and so he gets a whole $300 a year for that. And then the telephone for that, that's the one downstairs, outside the PD.
Which we'll need to get those folks back in because there's a plate over it and get that rewired so we can put a phone in.
So that one's pretty
Is it just a
straightforward.
matter of removing the plate?
I think
Is
they
the phone
need
not
some
working?
wiring in there.
I'm sorry.
Is the phone not working?
Could you grab me one of those?
I don't think it's just not plugged in, I don't think.
When they took that thing off, it seemed like we had to undo some wires.
Oh, that cabinet thing.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna have to wire us in a.
Okay.
That came up on my radar today.
Any questions on that one?
No questions?
Next one is legal. which,
This gentleman here, a
yes,
couple other gentlemen.
for the attorneys. So that's our attorney's fees for the year. And then the last one of mine is the engineering and planning, and that's WLC.
Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Same.
Yeah, I just got one. I noticed all of a sudden when you get to, like the first 3 years, it was like right around 32, 31, 35.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it jumps to 56.
We've been doing a lot more projects.
It's just because of the projects?
Mhm.
Okay.
And so all the engineering Shane has to
Okay.
do for that comes
Gonna
out of there.
continue for next year.
In that engineering planning, the planning portion of is the planning, the planning and zoning, the site plans, the meetings with the planning and zoning commission. So that's all engineering and planning.
Okay. Yeah, I was
The
just,
zoning certificates for re-roofs, for fences, for buildings, yeah.
so this 33,000, that's just like the first, that's everything but the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah,
Pretty much. Is that pretty much up to date? You think?
I would say it's probably 8 months worth,
Okay. So we're gonna end up right there again, close.
yeah.
Okay.
'Cause I think we'll be just as busy next year, if not busier, so.
Okay.
I actually have a question for you guys.
Mhm.
As I'm looking at the the emergency management general one, I see since 2019, the current is 300, but everything else in life has increased. Should that not increase at least a little bit?
And what is that set by?
It was just somebody had volunteered for the position and was compensated that for years. And then when we went with the full-time fire department. Well, and even, I think even Zach was the emergency manager for a while. Because it really needs to stay with the emergency services, whether it's police or fire. That's just the fee that it was set at. I mean, that's, because you're basically doing those functions as is, right, already, as fire chief? Is there other functions that go into that that's beyond the scope of?
So when you start talking about hazard mitigation plans, emergency operation plans, all of those are very specific function to the emergency manager, not the fire chief. So there are some things that I do that, though they affect the fire department, that's not the fire chief's job, so to speak.
So it's like a job on top of a job.
Correct.
How often do you do that?
For this last year,
Yes.
I couldn't tell you how many hours I spent doing that this
Like
last year.
hundreds?
A
Over
lot,
50,
well,
over 100?
Probably easily over 50, because this last year, it's ironic that this even got brought up, but this last year we had to rewrite the county's emergency operation plan and the hazard mitigation plan all in the same year. So in this November, December, January, February, for 4 months, those two plans, I couldn't even tell you how many, because I've never kept track of how many hours, because I'm just expected to do it as the fire chief, I guess, but I just get it done. But yeah, I spent a tremendous amount of time doing emergency management stuff this year, partially because of the plans that had to be updated. You guys are gonna see the EOP soon, because you guys hopefully will adopt it by resolution, but yeah, that's a 6-8 month long project. The hazard mitigation plan was almost a year long project. to update those documents for multitude of reasons, grants, FEMA, they affect pretty much all of our grant writing. Anytime we get a FEMA declaration, we have to have all those things in place. So yeah, they take a lot of time. Natrona County Emergency Management is the ones that oversees it, like on the grand scale. But this last year with the hazard mitigation plan, FEMA changed the rules. Because county emergency management used to basically write the plan and we would all go through it and whatever. FEMA this last year for the hazard mitigation plan specifically changed the rules that every municipality that is going to participate in the county-wide one has to have their own. So I literally had to write our own hazard mitigation plan in conjunction with the county plan because FEMA changed that rule this last year. We don't know why. But they changed the rules this last year. So like for me, the city of Mills, the city of Casper, us, we all had to,
Sorry, that's me, Schoenbexy.
we all had to write our own plans in conjunction with the county-wide plan, which none of us were expecting or even thought that was gonna happen, but then it happened. So there was a lot of time spent doing that stuff this last year.
So you don't think the 300 is too much?
We are violating minimum wage laws.
Good line.
We should just change that to salary. Let's take wage
The
off.
fact that he does it and I don't have to do it, he deserves an increase.
Cause it would be Mike or I that would do it. But our function is emergency management, but when we get into very specific things like EOPs, HMPs, all of those things, most municipalities have an emergency manager. Specifically, that's what they do. I was asked to do it quite a few years ago and be the emergency manager, kind of by default. And I'll be honest, some years I don't have as much to do as the emergency manager. And then we have years like this year where I was doing a lot more emergency management than I was fire department for a while. So just to update all the plans and deal with all of that. They're very time consuming because they're large documents. So I had thought that it was taken into consideration with the wage study that was done. But when all of that came out, nothing was touched with it. And I didn't ask a lot of questions because that's not, I guess, who I am. And I just went with it.
So it looks like a number that we should visit.
I agree.
I think we would probably have to look at that hard because he's salary.
But it's two different jobs, correct?
And so I think you would have to find some sort of a separation there. You know,
And like I said, by default, I've been doing it. This last year it took a tremendous amount of my time, but a lot of municipalities will just straight up hire an emergency manager to do that job all the time. I don't know if we're big enough for that yet, but if we keep growing, someday that will become a thing where Mike and I won't have time to do it in lieu of our current full-time job that we have running our departments.
Leo, what are the other municipalities in Natrona? How are they handling this? Do we know?
I've never even checked into it because it's never, up until today, I just do it. It's just,
I mean, I've seen the EOP. It makes my head spin
I know.
a little bit, just a little bit.
Wait
Because
till-
it's
wait till you-
massive.
Wait till you get a copy of the HMP.
Yeah,
It's even a
It's
department
big.
document.
I was just, the reason why I was just looking at it since like, from this paper, 2019, and I mean, like, other things have gone up a little bit, and I'm not saying like, can you increase it to $10 million, please? I'm not asking that, just some, maybe a little bit of an increase in there, considering that it's been, consistent the same. I mean, I don't know how that works out, but that was my only thought behind it.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. My first question is, I'm looking at our town treasurer on, if we were looking at an increase, where would we be pulling that funding
Well,
from?
depending on the increase.
And And because we would have to figure out like what other municipalities might be doing, since the wage study didn't cover it, we have no technical data collection to go off of. Again, I'm not opposed to the idea, just we don't have data collection from that wage study report, so where would we be getting, how are we gonna select a number that's gonna be appropriate?
And I'll
I
be
guess
honest with
The
you,
question.
maybe I should have followed up on it more when the wage study first started, and I don't remember the lady's name, but she called and talked to all of us
Lori.
department heads.
Lori Graves.
Lori. She asked me all the functions that I do as the fire chief, and then she asked me if I had additional functions that I do, and I told her that, but then it never came up again. So I don't know if I got shut down. I don't know if she just missed it. Slid through the cracks.
Okay.
I'm not casting stones at anybody. But initially in our first conversation, she had asked me about that. And then it never came up again. So I don't know where it went.
So chief, on a normal year, when you don't have the special reports and stuff, is there a difference?
What do you mean?
Well, because you had,
Timeline.
it sounds like you had to put together a big report. Everything lately took you a lot of time. I guess I'm just kind of thinking. off
I would
the cuff
say,
here,
I would
but-
say on a normal year for things that emergency managers should or have to go to, I would say it's probably about 50 hours, 60 hours a year maybe.
Okay, that's kind of the point I was trying to get to.
This year, it was hundreds of hours.
Well, that, the 50 to 60, I mean, we could maybe look at, okay, what's a fair compensation for 50 or 60 hours? And then when these special projects come up, then maybe we need to budget for those to say, hey, there needs to be some kind of compensation for doing that. Because it sounds like,
So do we adjust the fire pay then?
If he's doing it on top of his fire duties, then no. If he is doing it during his fire duties, and see, that's where the question, that's where the
And
rub comes in.
that's where the challenge comes in, because I'm hired as the fire chief and the emergency manager, but my office is at the fire station.
Right,
So my daily job is to run the fire station.
Right.
But when we have the HMP, the EOP, all of these things come up, that takes a back burner, because if I don't do those, it's gonna, it put the town in a really bad place as far as
right.
grants and FEMA, and there would be implications to not do it.
But I guess is what I'm.
So how do we separate?
Yeah, and that's where the rub comes in, because are those additional hours you're putting in besides normal 8 to 5, say 8 to 5, I'm just saying 8 to 5. I'm sure you spend more time than that, but I'm just saying 8 to 5. Are there additional hours that are put in to do this? Then to me, that should be compensated.
Well, I guess right now, how it plays out is the fire department takes a back burner, and because I have to get those documents done, so I sit in my office at the fire station and I do emergency management stuff, and I can't do fire department stuff, I guess, at that point, because those take.
So then somebody else has to do your fire department duties, right?
The stuff that doesn't do itself, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're so highly organized that and I
Most
mean that
days.
as a compliment.
Most days.
I mean that as a compliment.
So Lexi, as the town treasurer, how would we even go about looking at that in terms of how would we move forward at looking at this salary increase?
Depending on what other municipalities are doing.
Leo, could you check into what other municipalities are doing, so we at least maybe get like a base of like what everyone else is doing, so that we at least have some kind of a baseline to
Yeah.
work off
And I'll
of?
just start within our county.
Yeah.
But
So
I
at least
can-
we can try to determine like what would be a good direction to take with this. I'm not opposed to that idea. I don't have any data sitting in front of me. There's nothing in the wage study that says what direction we should take,
that's-
so.
That was the weird part about it, for me. And like I said, I didn't question it. I just come to work.
Because you're humble.
I just come to work and do my job.
I'm not opposed to this. I need to know like a baseline of what we would even be looking at.
So would that be more salary, or is that something that like he personally could keep track of and then we turn it to an hourly position? Because obviously this is salary, correct? It's just a $300 salary is what it is.
With no like retirement tied to it.
Right, and so that's
It's
just,
just your normal FICA
I didn't know which way,
unemployment.
do we change it to an hour thing and then whatever hours he does, then
That's
that's
fine.
what he does, or how does that?
I know, that's like
how
I'm
does
looking
that-
up and
I know, I'm
asked
like,
him.
I hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's raining pretty bad.
I think at this point, as council at the budget meeting, we should approve a modest increase. We can iron out the hours, salary, wages. At another point, we'll have a number within our budget to go up to. So
Based off
Monetary
of the,
The information.
correct.
we can, yeah. We'll approve
I
a
wouldn't
higher
be opposed
rate,
to that.
but we can iron out all the wages.
Yeah, just was
Yeah,
curious on
always.
like
And
how
then,
that
and
worked.
then keep hours separate hours to, I think we would want to keep a log of,
I mean, it would all depend on how,
Emergency management hours and what you're dedicating to that,
right, so
and
that,
then what you're dedicating to the fire department.
If you're hourly, keep a time card. I mean,
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
we're
a record of
salary,
your hours.
so
well, and then,
he's getting paid for the fire department, but if he's not doing the fire department duties and doing the emergency management duties, we need to have the separation, keeping track of that, so
That's
we,
well, and like
Have a
this time of
basis.
year, severe weather, that's all emergency management. Now, if something happens, then my hat switches very quickly. If something's on fire,
Right.
but all of our severe weather stuff, our major snowstorms, our flooding, all of that's technically emergency management. It's not, there's no other fire chiefs that drive around
I
and do that job.
personally, I like the flat fee. The 300 is ridiculous.
That's what I just meant was just the.
But if we had a
That's all I
flat
meant.
fee that said, hey, this position pays this, and even if we had to go into a interview process to put that out there or whatever, but it would just be a flat fee, be very easy for us to budget.
Okay.
And it would at least compensate you for some of your time.
Okay, so
315.
350.
And then one penny.
I
So
was thinking 3.25.
moving forward so that we can keep this ball moving on all the stuff for tonight.
Okay.
So Leo, can you get us some information regarding municipalities and we can determine, I know that you've spent a lot of hours on all of those large handles. But you know me, I'm a data person, so
I know.
I need to see
And
numbers and
that-
data and all the
that
things.
comes around, what? Because it was last adopted in 15.
No, the HMP is every 3 or 4 years. The EOP is also every 3 years, I think.
Because I know we did an adoption in 15.
They're updated pretty
And
regularly.
then we did an adoption in 18.
What you have to
Where are we
put
at?
up with, if you do a flat fee, it should be at least 1,500. Seriously.
Well, yeah,
It's gonna be.
I think even that,
Next to Woods.
Yeah, but see what the
it
data
needs to
comes
be a
back
fair
as.
fee
Okay.
for everybody. Or, you know,
All right, so we're all in an agreement
Okay.
that we're going to check into this, look into it. We're not opposed to the idea. We're actually in support of the idea, but we need to see where our baseline is. Okay, all right, moving forward, if everybody is good with that, because we still got a lot to go through.
Okay.
All right.
fire away.
Where now, Lexi? So Leo can drive.
Do police or
Still in general.
Let's go fire first.
fire department, general fund.
Leo, we'll just keep the ball rolling with you, sir.
Okey dokey.
Thank
And
you,
if
chief.
you last, Robert, that way you can do your general and then.
That's what I was gonna do.
But,
So you got time to eat.
It's one that says fire.
I know.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to find it.
So there's
Just
fire,
like, I can't, I went past it twice.
there's fire general fund, and then I always do this little Word document that kind of helps outline. Everybody has appreciated it in the past, so I've continued to do it. It kind of outlines changes, what money's spent on, why. So like wages and benefits, that's all pretty much put together by Lexi, and then I go through it and we together, I guess, approve it. I did increase my overtime budget a little bit this next year, just because of, well, a couple reasons. We did all get a raise, so that obviously exponentially increases overtime. But the other side of it is when we changed the town handbook, I have a whole bunch of people that are going to be dealing with getting their vacation time in check. And when people take vacation, then I have to call people in. So I did increase the overtime this year to hopefully not go over and be prepared for the vacation time getting in check, and then also a little bit to help compensate for the wage increases. That's actually negligible in my opinion. I think the bigger issue is going to be all the overtime from everybody getting their vacation time down to what our new town policy says it needs to be. And I have a couple guys that are pretty good about using vacation, and then I've got guys, I'll admit it, like myself, that struggle taking vacation, and it's going to be a very big challenge to get our vacation time in check. Anyway, moving on. Not much changed as far as professional improvements. I believe I left all of that pretty much identical. Safety equipment and uniforms, 1057, 320 under operating expense. That one changed a little bit because we're in the process of updating our uniforms. We've been wearing the same uniform since when we went to a combination department in 2012. And we've made them last, but it's time to put guys in new shirts and new pants, especially their like Class B shirts, and so they look nice. But we did half of it this year, and I'm proposing to do the other half this coming year. So there was at $5,000 for uniforms and badges. The air pack maintenance and flow tests and the extrication maintenance, that's annual stuff, keeps our vehicle extrication tools up to speed, and our air packs by NFPA have to be flow tested and certified annually. So those are they're there because, well, hopefully they're always there. As far as utilities, I didn't mess around with them a lot. My budget has actually looked fairly good this year as far as utilities are concerned. I realize what Phil was talking about earlier with the increases that they're asking for at the state levels. But I actually think from what we've spent this year, I realize we had a mild winter, but I didn't think they looked too bad, so I kind of left those alone. First aid supplies took a jump this year because we need, and you guys can sigh with me, we need 2 Zoll batteries, which are cardiac monitors, and they're $1,000 a battery. And then we need 2 Lucas batteries, which are our CPR assist devices, and they are also $1,000 a battery. It gives me anxiety to think about a battery costing $1,000, but
It's okay with me. I'm 75. It's okay.
okay.
Might need that.
Our pediatric bags are in disrepair, and so that's pretty minuscule. What? No, pediatric. So we have
In the big one.
we have adult medical bags, and then we have pediatric
Okay,
medical bags. So that would be medical bags.
Right, never mind, okay.
And then active shooter bags. Some of the training recently is dealing with active shooter threats and mass casualty incidents. And we prepped for that over the years, but after going through some of the training we've been through recently, there are some bags that we need to purchase, so we're more prepared for that event. They're, in the grand scheme of things, $250 to me isn't that much, but I had to put them in there because we need them. Our county is doing some really good things with active shooter response, but we got to be prepared for that. Outside of that, moving to professional services. This covers background checks. We haven't actually hired volunteers in about a year, and we're going to need to be hiring some volunteers. And the background checks covers both volunteers and college interns. So now that I'm looking at it, I hope I didn't lowball that, but we will probably use all 6 of those background checks in the next year. Our medical director, the reason there's an unknown by that is our current medical director, Dr. Colgan, gave us 90 days notice back in March that he's moving to Colorado, so he can't be our medical director after June 30th. He's the medical director for the entire county, so it's not just Evansville, it's all the fire departments, all the ambulance services, the sheriff's office, anybody that has an EMT. That's a professional service he was a medical director for, so.
So are you guys interviewing for that right now?
I was getting there. So our protocol committee, which is comprised of people from all the agencies within our county, they work with the medical director writing our protocols. They have been tasked with seeking out another medical director under the supervision of our county fire chiefs group, because all the fire chiefs in Natrona County meet once a month. So we have tasked that protocol group with the tall task of medical direction, keeping us in the loop, and they are diligently working on it. There are 2 different doctors that they've talked to that are interested, but I don't know what that's going to look like as far as contracts and pay. So that is
Banner Health.
Do what?
Does it have to be through Banner Health?
So we did learn recently that Banner's ambulances, their medical direction has to come from within Banner. And it was nice with Dr. Colgan because he worked at Banner. So that wasn't a problem at the time. But their new EMS coordinator told us that their policy states their medical director has to be within the hospital. One of the doctors we're looking at is not within the hospital, so they may end up with their own medical direction, and all the rest of the agencies in the county will have our own medical direction. I don't know how that's going to play out yet, but that's kind of, I think, where it's going. Unless we can find a doctor in the ER that we all agree on. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the ER. As long as we can find a doctor within Banner somewhere that wants to be the medical director for the entire county, because that's a huge undertaking with all the EMS licenses from basics to paramedics, with all the agencies. If we can find one, it makes more sense to have one medical director for the whole county. But if there's not a doctor there that's willing to do that, we're also preparing for that as well, seeking out our own medical direction for all the agencies with the same medical director, because that also will help cut down on cost. Because then the cost is divided amongst all the agencies and not just us trying to find a doctor for $100,000 a year that wants to be our medical director. So it's a very unique thing we have going on in our county, and it's a very good thing as far as the Chiefs group and how that all plays out. But that is a humongous unknown right now. I'll get you guys answers as soon as I get them, but I don't have that answer.
So maybe, possibly, could this number go up? Possibly.
It possibly could. I know that one of the doctors they're talking to that's not within Banner has asked a lot of questions about what Dr. Colgan was charging all of the agencies on average. Lexi gave me a printout last week on, I think it was the last 2 years or 3 years of what Dr. Colgan had charged us every month for medical direction. And on average, I think we'll be okay there. I honestly do, because the new doctor we're talking to wanted all those numbers to make sure that he felt comfortable being the medical director for the same type of fees that Dr. Colgan was getting paid.
Okay.
So I think that's a fair number, but I don't have a direct answer yet. And then the Interagency Dispatch Center, so that is actually the Casper BLM U.S. Forest Service Wyoming State Forestry Dispatch Center that's out by the airport. They are the dispatch center that sends our brush truck outside of our county. So when we get a resource order to go to a large wildland incident anywhere in the continental United States, that's the dispatch center that handles all of that. And this is basically a donation to help that center for helping us. And I've never thought of, we've done that for years, and I've never thought that $1,000 was unreasonable for what they do for us. So that's one I would kind of push for, because we utilize their services a lot throughout the summer.
So it's a good one for an increase.
Do what?
It'd be a good increase.
A good increase.
Justifiable.
Well, and the good news is, like, the other agencies help them too. So I think between like the other fire agencies and us, we're helping them quite a bit to sustain that service for us. And I mean, the federal government pitched in a whole millions and millions of dollars to build the tanker base out at our airport that's being built right now, which is a huge asset to us. So I think it's a good thing. As far as equipment expense goes, the only laptop that we need to replace right now is mine. I've been using Mike's hand-me-down for a while and it's getting old. So I need a new CAD computer for my command vehicle in my office. We got a grant last year to replace all the other ones. And then our annual engine pump tests and services. And then we had some rotators get broke on one of our engines, the old trouble bubble rotators, and we learned very quickly that those things are so obsolete and outdated you can't even buy parts for them anymore. So we went ahead and replaced the ones on the engine that were broken, but our other engine still has them, and I would just like to replace them and be done with it. That's why you see the update rotators to LED lights on engine 12.2. I would rather just replace them before they break than
Being a pickle.
be in a pickle. Outside of that, image trend is going to be about $3,500 a year, and active 911, which is part of our phone paging, is $650. Those didn't really change. So I didn't really have a lot of changes in my budget, if I'm being honest. There was a few things in there that I kind of went over, and then if you look at the very back page, the one-time purchases from 1 cent funding, this was something that Mayor Edwards had asked us to do for the 5 cent, 1 cent funding. So we pulled all this stuff used to be in my budget, and then it got pulled out of my budget because it's a separate line item. Lexi knows what that identifies, 30, 40 something, 992.
992. Oh, look
I'm
at you.
learning.
You're getting it.
So basically, for one-time purchases, Chad had asked us, and Candace didn't change anything because we liked the way it was going. I need to be more professional. Mayor Edwards and Mayor Machado.
You were just fine.
So these all used to be in my budget. Some of these I don't really view as one-time purchases. Some of them are, like the structure helmets, the wildland pants, and the bunker gear. So the first 3 things on there, those are set up on a rotation so that we don't ever have to buy 30 sets of bunker gear at one time, because that would be between $250,000 and $500,000 to do that. So we try and keep all of our bunker gear on a rotation because it all has a life. We can't use anything that's over 10 years old. We could leave it in the original packaging for 10 years and we have to throw it away after 10 years. So whether it's used or not, it has a life of 10 years. So I've tried to get all those things on a rotation. So we never are put in that predicament or pickle. Thus far, the town has always supported that. So that's why they're there. The SCBA regulators, so that is a one-time purchase. 2 years ago, we got a $250,000 grant to replace all of our SCBAs, and they're all brand new. With COVID and sickness and all of those things, the guys have asked me if they can all have their own regulator issued to them, so they're not breathing out of a regulator that everybody else breathes out of on the SCBA.
I think
That
that's
seems
reasonable.
Just a thing.
I don't want to breathe yours.
We do sanitize them and stuff, but it's still
It's okay.
just, I don't know. So I told them, I said, I don't think that's unreasonable. So we would need 12 more of them to get all of our members issued their own regulator, because they already have their own mask. So they would just attach their own regulator to their own mask. It's theirs, there are many like it. But I also think it gives me more accountability, because then their masks are theirs. So if something breaks, they have to bring it to me and tell me what happened. The regulators right now are just on the air pack. So if something happens to a regulator,
I don't know what happened.
exactly, human nature, nobody wants to get in trouble. I get it. But
No,
this
he
also,
did it. No, he did it.
but this would also give them more accountability as far as the regulators are concerned, because now they will have their own issued regulator with their mask. And if something happens to said regulator, they get to come to my office and explain to me why and how whatever happened. So the standpipe bagging kit, it is for fire department connection sprinkler system standpipes. That is one kit. We do have 2 engines, and originally they asked me to get 2 of them. I didn't think that was reasonable because it's not something we're going to honestly use all the time, and I don't think we need more than 1 of those kits. So I just put 1 kit. The 2 1/4 inch hose is a one-time purchase. We replaced most of our 2 1/2 inch hose out of the budget we're working on now. This finishes replacing the 2 1/4 inch hose. So that basically finishes up what we started right now. The 1 3-inch hose section, that just happened when we were doing our annual hose testing. One of our 3-inch sections of hose failed, so I have to cut it up into pieces, and we have to buy a new one. The bunker boots kind of fall right along with the 5 sets of bunker gear. The gym equipment updates, the updates they were asking for this year was dumbbells, rollers. The town, I'll be honest, the town over the last few years has been very diligent in getting our gym up to date for physical fitness. The police department also has access to it. The public works could come use it if they wanted to. It's not locked down. It's locked down to town employees, but not locked down to just the fire department, just for liability purposes, obviously. And I know there are some police officers that use it. Each year they've come back with little things. I don't think $4,700 for gym equipment's that expensive considering
How expensive it is.
how expensive gym equipment
Yeah.
is. But it's just, instead of doing, 20 or 30,000 at once, we've tried to just build it. So that's just building onto what we have. Our station computers, we've learned recently, are failing. We didn't even have Mark's computer budgeted this year, but it died. So we had to go buy him a new computer. And our other ones are just as old as his was. So we've got some laptops and 1 desktop that we need to replace for reports, the interns for school. The computers are used a lot. So that would be the computers. And then I know the last but certainly not least, to finish our remodel that we're currently working on. The new furniture in the living quarters, recliners or a large couch. The guys would prefer to have recliners because then if one breaks, you don't have to replace the whole couch. You can just replace a recliner. So that would be roughly $1,000 per recliner for 6 recliners. And then putting all the new commercial grade appliances within the kitchen and all of the stuff we're remodeling currently. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Go for it.
First of all, I think the chief, the way he put this stuff together is absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
I was really, this was the last one I looked at, and I thought, oh my God, this is nice. I wasn't looking forward to looking at it, but when I seen it, it was fine.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, couple things. Is 6 recliners enough?
For the most part, yes. We typically,
6 recliners.
our shifts with the full-time captain, full-time engineer, the interns, there's always 4, as long as nobody's sick or on vacation. There's always 4. Most of the time from our part-time and volunteers, we don't have more than 2 more show up.
Okay.
So I do think 6 is a reasonable number. On a rare occasion, we might have 7 guys at the station, but it doesn't happen very often. So I'm afraid, I don't know. I kind of hem-hawed around about putting 7 in there versus
I guess
6,
I think you should do 7.
just to be safe.
Yeah, they aren't gonna go
That's
down,
your prerogative.
they aren't gonna go down in price.
Also true. That's
Okay.
also fair.
Second thing is, that seems like a lot of equipment for $7,000. You guys must have got a way good deal.
For the kitchen appliances?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like
I
a
don't want to
refrigerator.
throw anybody under the bus, but Chief Cornett is the one that gave me those numbers. So let me see if he wrote anything out. Dispatch. I don't think Mark wrote anything out for me. He, after that council meeting, when we came and asked for the remodel, he went back within a day and got online and started looking at the prices for all of those things. And that was the number he gave me.
Maybe.
Wasn't I mean, obviously I wasn't up on council at that point, but so when you guys came in and asked for, it was for cabinets and flooring and carpet and all that other stuff. For some reason, I thought that a refrigerator was on there already, or because of, it was already breaking, or it was something was already broken, and one of those things was like, if it was a stove or something that was getting,
So he asked that question in the council meeting, and our refrigerator is getting old and it doesn't have handles on it. And
okay,
we
maybe
just
that's
dealt
what it
with that.
was, okay.
As far as failing, as far as keeping food cold, no, but it's,
Right, no, it was more of for some reason, I thought that the stove or the refrigerator was already in the other
No.
budget that was for like the cabinets and things like that, it was already there.
no, we built the cabinets around the new stuff, but we didn't put any appliances in the original one.
Because
That's
I
just
I
was
guess
checking.
my question, chief, is if you're putting commercial grade stuff
I was
in,
so short.
I just kinda went
Thanks, honey.
dig what my stuff costs. And I think
Chief
you're,
Cornett will be here tomorrow and I will double check those numbers.
double
with
check,
him.
because I think maybe 8,000 is a little closer.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
That,
One,
personal
two.
deal. Now,
Well, and I know the gas line, because we have to have a plumber
because
run.
that was, you told me that was 2,500.
Yeah, it was just over 2,500 to have a plumber come in
Yeah,
and run
see,
the
so
gas line.
that's, I mean, that's getting close to.
Yeah.
That's at least a third of it, right
Yep.
there. That's what, I was just kind of adding that up and I'm going,
I'll do some double checking. The
Okay.
one thing I forgot before we go on, so I had to write these down on my thing today, which is why they don't reflect on your sheets, and I apologize for that. Last week, we cleaned our bunker room and did an inventory. And the yellow shirts that we wear for wildland firefighting, I had to get rid of all but 8 of them because they were all out of date. So I need to add about $2,380 for wildland shirts. Because we only have 8 left.
I'm gonna do 2,400.
Okay, 2,400.
I like round
I
numbers.
know, I knew that, Lexi. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one was bunker gloves. I did a very deep inventory and we have a lot of used bunker gloves for structural firefighting, but I literally do not have another brand new pair of bunker gloves in the fire station. And that'll be about $2,650. Are you good with that number or would you rather go 27?
We'll go 2,650.
Okay. And I worked, actually, between everything I was doing today, I worked on one of our reps that gives me, this is gonna sound funny, but good prices on these types of things. And those were the numbers I came up with this afternoon. So those would just be small adds to the 1 cent funding from things I just learned about recently.
okay. My $64 question,
$64 question.
this is a $64, it went right by the 32.
Okay.
On the Medicare adjustment, okay. So I think you had told me one time that we bill out like $750 for one type of call and like $1,250 for another one. Is that, am I wrong there?
1,600 and 750.
1,500 and
1,600.
1,600 and
Yeah,
750.
so a BLS call is $750, and then an ALS call or advanced life support call is $1,600.
Okay, so if you came and picked me up and had to do the full meal deal,
That's
okay,
ALS.
that's 1,600,
Yep.
okay?
Plus
I'm gonna
mileage.
use your batteries up,
And
Plus
then
mileage.
mileage, it's
Yeah.
$22.50 a loaded mile,
okay. So
right? 22.
then Medicare, so this 325 is what Medicare is over their allowance, correct?
This is a really good Lexi question, because I despise this line item
despise this?
in the
Okay.
budget. But, yeah, it's basically what we have to write off from billing, is that right, Lexi?
Yeah, now,
Medicaid falls in there too.
okay, in Medicaid, yeah, Medicaid's a whole different animal, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Medicaid, you can't do anything about, but are we turning around and, so do we bill Medicare?
Mhm.
Okay, so are we also billing their Medicare supplements? Okay,
Medicare passes it on to the supplement.
to the supplements, okay,
But there's still a portion that is dictated to be written off by Medicare. And then a smaller portion goes on to the supplement.
right, right. Now, I just wanted to make sure that that was all in there.
Yep.
Scary, huh?
It's terrifying.
The costs are going down.
Okay, do we got any more questions on that one? No? Okay, Mike, you're up.
Nobody's chopping anything out of my budget?
Oh, we can change
I
it.
think we added stuff.
You did that stuff.
Michael, you're up. Police General Fund. You got 10 minutes, Michael. Use them wisely.
10 minutes. Leo cut into my time.
You can take that up with him at the end.
Police general, you said?
Yeah, I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. In the world of the first few line items, everything's pretty cut and dried because your salary and wages is your wages of the employees in the police department, and of course you have your benefits and all that. The one line item, I have to be honest, the overtime line, I probably should have budgeted more than the 45,000, looking at what we're doing with investigations lately, and cases coming up, they're becoming more demanding and things like that. So if I was to increase anything in those few lines, that's the one that I feel that needs to be more funded. Moving on past
Do you have a
that,
number for that? What it'd be increased to?
honestly, I think
About?
another 15,000.
I'll give you 10.
Ooh, wheel and deal.
Wait, this is an A and B conversation.
But she's also our treasurer. We gotta keep everybody in check.
A, B plus B, but
Yeah.
you know, we've got, the world seems to be getting stranger. We've got more and more cases that are coming in that are going towards investigations that both Jesse and the officers are working conglomerately. Him and I just had a discussion today about our one case from Park Lane that involved shooting. We're almost resolved, but he's got to make some trips to Douglas, some more interviews. You know, he's building that case to charge some people as adults, so it's pretty significant. But while he's working on that case, we've had other significant cases come in. We just had a sex assault with a juvenile coming in that's pretty significant. We've got one we resolved with storage units being broke into. Like, it's getting a lot. And then, you know, Leo already touched base with the retirement, or not the retirement, the vacation side of the policy. I have that same dilemma in my department, which I equated for, but looking, because I can't predict
I'll come
crime
run a
and stuff.
shift for you.
Hmm?
I'll come run a shift for you.
Me too.
You know what?
I think it'll be fun.
I could use, I would have something really cool like Leo built if I wasn't playing records clerk, moving the PD back in, being discombobulated 8 months, and being chief all in one. So I would have had that really cool breakdown, but, so I think 15 is what I'm asking. We can debate that once we get through all this.
There are 24 hours in a day.
Oh, I know. I know.
We use them all up, I promise.
It is something. So once you get past, you know, FICA, workman's, all that stuff. So dues and subscriptions, what that comes down to. So I have a lot of things I subscribe to. One of them is ICP Net. It's an International Chiefs Association. Within that network, gives me access to every police department, sheriff's office, law enforcement agency, plus policies to network with. There's about 80,000 policies. So anytime something new comes through that we need to look at for policies or whatever, I can vet through there. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a good networking tool. We have Leads Online we subscribe to. So who haven't I picked on lately? I picked on all of you guys. I picked on Scott. We'll pick on the new gal. So like Alana, she calls, you know, somebody came in and stole her pet washing station. Leads Online allows, so there's state law that all the pawn shops have to report to this network. So every officer has an account with this. So if she's got a serial number, they can plug it in and see if anybody stole her dog washing station. So you got Leads Online. I have an arrest law bulletin, which gives me its legal updates. So anytime there's a case that goes before a court and there's a case law created, I get to read what's going on through the nation with different cases. It's a good way to keep updated. We have the Wyoming Chiefs and Sheriffs Association we subscribe to, Wyoming Peace Officer Association. And I know there's probably some more in here I'm missing right now. So in the interest of time, registrations is training. So any extra training to include like the academy, so we have our newest individual, he started his first day at the academy today. We'll be getting a bill probably $3,800 once he's done with the academy. And then we have Zoe, was gonna go in May, but she's been pushed to September. So that's all in registrations, and so like when Luke, me and Cassidy get recerted on our CVSA stuff, which is every 2 years, firearms instructor research, advanced interview, any of that kind of extra training, that all goes in there. Travel expenses goes hand in hand with registrations, lodging, meals, notary, so that our records clerk, she's notary, which is, you can see there's 0 there. The credit card bank fees got reduced courtesy of Lexi over here moving us to some online thing that I don't really like right now. But I'll like it eventually.
Why? It's delightful. It's easy to use.
I like the card. It was simple. Put it in, push some buttons. It was good. I'm really good at pushing buttons.
You
Moving
get to
on.
push the buttons.
No,
Moving
I
on.
think he's talking about different
Office supplies, I bumped it up a little bit just because of the inflational side that's starting to come down, but it's pens, pencils, notebooks, all the things that we need to run in the office. Printing is, it's like our warning citation stuff that we have, stickers for the kids, things like that is what comes out of printing. Safety uniforms is your pants, your shirts, your coats, your ballistic vests, you name it. If it's gun belts, any of that kind of stuff that we supply, that's safety uniforms. Telephone, so
Is it up because life has gone up?
No,
We've
Luke's
added
SRT,
Yeah,
what,
Luke-
13?
yeah, Luke-
Okay,
yeah, Luke getting on SRT is what's caused this to go up, because there's a specialty requirement that comes from the SO for uniform requirements and gear stuff, so that's why that line is up.
13,100, 13,800 extra.
Because part of it's gonna come out of the current budget and part of it will come out of this budget we're talking about.
You lost me. What's it for?
SRT, which is special response. SWAT.
almost like our SWAT team.
Okay.
Yeah, it's-
Oh, I see. Oh, you told me about that. Okay, now I know
So-
what it is. Okay.
Yeah, they call it SRT, other places they call it SWAT, it's all the same
I
stuff.
watch TV, so you
Yeah.
got to do SWAT.
Yeah, so with
Basically,
him
yes.
getting on that unit, there are requirements and gear
Okay.
that's
All right.
telephone, so our MDTs in our units run off SIM cards or these little internet pucks for the old ones like Leo has for me. So we're through FirstNet, which is a priority system, which puts us above. So if you're a regular AT&T customer, sorry, we take priority over you because it networks with Union and Verizon, like it networks. So postage, anytime we send out, mail, registered letters, those kind of things. First aid supplies, so we have 2 internal first aid boxes downstairs that get serviced off and on with Band-Aids and, that kind of stuff. Repairs, maintenance, that's a zeroed out line. Professional services, so if Robert, say, wants to apply with the PD, gets through our grueling interview process and we have to do a psych eval because that's a mandated thing through post. So psych evals, things like that are for professional services. Let's see, moving on, vehicle expenses. So any repairs to the patrol units, that's what that line is about. Gasoline, hard one to predict because it can go up, it can go down, depends on who gets in Washington and how much they want to screw us with gas. So I try to, I don't want to say I keep it plush, but I definitely want to make sure we have plenty of money in there to patrol because that's what the citizens like to see is us out patrolling, responding to calls. Equipment expenses, so that falls into, so we train on the range, so it's every year we have to buy X amount of ammunition, like training ammunition. Our pepper spray has expiration dates, things like that fall into equipment expenses. Then the impact fund depreciation, which is part of those impact funds, so electronical things, I already spent $4,700 on some radar replacements at that line.
Okay,
Did you say train in the rain, like the
No.
rain?
No,
the range.
range.
Range, okay,
Train on the
I heard
range.
rain, that's what I'm like.
Yeah, the firearms range.
Okay.
They need
Okay,
rainbows
keep it
for that.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Impact fund
Poncho?
depreciation.
Okay, so impact, so Leo and I got the joy of going and testifying. So anytime there's a wind or solar project that affects our community. Scott's there with us. He has the brunt of listening to the boring conversations. We're eligible or can receive impact funds. So we have Cedar Springs going on right now and Anticline just started. So through the course of these projects, Cedar Springs is in Converse County, which brings in temporary workers, like the rocks getting hauled out of mills. And so if they come through Evansville, they drop rocks. So I put in for overtime, depreciation, gasoline, things like that. Leo put in for overtime and things like that. So depreciation. So when I put, say, Lana's working for us because Robert failed the psych and she got in and we hired her, she's working extra time. That's extra wear and tear on the electronic devices riding around. So depreciation is for that wear and tear of things that I put in for on electronic devices, which would be radars, cameras, computers, those kind of things.
So is that reimbursable then?
It's already coming in and it's put in a line item. So
That's on the revenue side.
okay, it's on the revenue
It's on the
side.
revenues. Okay.
So
Yeah, it's
okay.
under
All
the,
right. Yep.
Realized
it'll say
cost.
impact funds and then that's where that
Okay.
comes in.
All right.
so farther up, like up here, this line here, that's the impact
The
funds.
impact
overtime.
funds, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So during that process, I said, I want to put extra people on patrol to help mitigate traffic and things like that. So anybody that works the extra overtime specific for these, the funds come out of.
Okay. I didn't ask up there because you were on a roll. and
I know, I'm
didn't
on a
wanna
roll.
stop you.
That's,
'Cause
that's,
she
I
told me
had
I
the
had 7
exact same
minutes.
one.
Yeah, I take
10.
over.
I think you have -3 now.
I know. So miscellaneous, because there are just things that come up that I can't plan for. You know, we get a flashlight that gets broken, you know, something turns up missing. Like there's just things that come up that I truly can't plan for in a budget. So that helps cover that.
Back up. I absolutely hate miscellaneous. Hate it. I think we need to put a name on it of some kind. I don't care what it is, but it needs to have a name, and miscellaneous is not a good name.
Not miscellaneous? Not miscellaneous?
So Mike,
Yeah,
I
not
put
miscellaneous.
that to you.
Accidental.
What do you use miscellaneous funds for?
Do you,
Incidentals?
hey, I have an idea. Do you have a small tools budget? Or a line item?
Oh, we could call it tools.
Cause that's, I have,
Honestly, like, okay, because like I mean, I could budget for flashlight replacement, but if a flashlight doesn't get broke, then I don't have to, like, I
Yeah, but-
understand why you have an issue with it, but I'm telling you, if we try to budget, I cannot honestly budget for the things that I can't foresee for. And that's why it's called miscellaneous.
Yeah, but we got $20,000 in it this year.
Well, that probably could come down a little bit because some of that is from, Or-
6,000.
We've got $6,000
yeah,
for
there's,
that.
I'm
Yeah,
looking
next
at
year, perspective.
yeah,
This
you're,
is current year.
current year
19.
actual is $19,983.
well, so part of the reason.
20,000.
I thought
Well,
you meant
you're-
for budgeting for next
Yeah,
year.
you're looking at the current year, and
Well,
so
but
the.
The year
Expended.
before that was 32,000. The year before that was 7,000.
Let me explain why it's up
Okay,
this year.
all right.
Can I finish?
Yep.
All right. So this year, with the 8 months of displacement downstairs and being discombobulated, we had flooding things. So there were some
Mhm.
things that came up. One of the things I chose to do was a lot of the old chairs were broken. I replaced those because we have new floors. So we don't have carpet because we wanted to mitigate the dirt and stuff down there. So with that, I replaced some chairs, which I didn't budget for because we didn't know we were going to have sewer backup and flooding. So we replaced chairs. There was a couple other things within the flooding things that I purchased because moving back in was a needed thing. Like the whiteboards that we put up, they're magnetic. We needed some replacement whiteboards. That was $3,500. So
Also, the new chairs that are in the waiting room, they have to be all hooked together for safety reasons versus the individual chairs now.
right. So
They have to be hooked
Okay,
together.
so
I don't have a problem with what you're saying. I'm just saying, put that in a line item, like put some stuff in there for office supplies and I just,
well, we put in miscellaneous
think
because I
I-
couldn't.
well, but I think, this is my feeling, is that when we start doing stuff in miscellaneous, that's just like, okay, you guys need to give me an extra 20 grand because I don't know what I'm gonna spend it on.
So
I don't like that.
I at least want to chime in on this. So
It's not doing no good. It's-
I can see where the word miscellaneous would be a challenge area, but, and I'm gonna poke the elephant for a second. I don't have a problem doing it. I rely at least in my position, I rely heavily on you guys, my chiefs, my department heads to come and give us a complete layout of what we're looking at in terms of what you guys need funding for, because you guys do this 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So Mike, Chief Thompson, what I hear you saying is that you can't really future think about what exactly we're going to be planning for, like with the flooding and all the construction issues and all the things that we've had downstairs and the problems that we couldn't account for.
Continue
So
water issues.
continual water issues that we're continually
Yeah.
dealing with. So is the issue the name, or is the issue, because what I hear you saying is I can't really I put it under miscellaneous because I can't future plan. So is the issue the name, or is the issue that we can't future plan? Because I don't want to spend an obscene amount of time on
My
this.
guess is the name, because
I
if
think
you look
Okay.
at, if you look at the
Well,
historical numbers, it's typically in that realms, but like when I have extra money in the budget, which this year because of short staffness, we had extra money.
Yes.
So because it wasn't a budgeted item, we put it in miscellaneous, which has not been an issue or cantankerous issue.
Until
My
Phil
other-
came along.
But
I'm not gonna say it that way, but
Well,
in my-
technically,
in my
It's a
12 years of being a chief, there's always been a miscellaneous line that was there because there's just some things you truly, like Leo has things that come up in his budget, Robert has things that come up
They're
that you
small tools.
truly just don't know that you can't budget for.
But then if we account for the name of small tools, or if we put it in that direction, and then we have an item that is not covered under small tools, then where is it going?
but we could,
Because
Go ahead.
I go
Let
back,
Lexi go ahead.
go ahead, dear.
you don't have to put it to miscellaneous. I mean, you can run your line items over if you so choose.
Just,
So I
At
mean,
the end of the year.
if
as
it
long
would
as-
make,
Because I can tell you from 50 years of running businesses, I never had a miscellaneous column.
so I mean, we could do that, as long as your bottom line
Yeah, I
is
could-
still.
I could put chairs under
Office
Well,
equipment.
but see,
or-
that
vehicle
stuff there,
expense. I mean,
that stuff there that happened with that water thing down there, that's a separate issue. And that's the type of thing that to me needs to come to council and you say, hey, you know, we had this furniture and stuff, something happens to it, let's allocate the money then to pay for that. You know, if money's available, not just stick it in miscellaneous and we're gonna, you know, blow by the miscellaneous budget then. And then when if I'm John Q. Citizen, I guarantee if I look at that, I'm going, what the heck? You know, and I just, those items that go over that,
Then zero it out, we'll put it somewhere else. We
Okay.
put 10,000 here and 5,000, I don't care.
okay,
I think
All
it's a name issue. We can
it's
fix
not a
it.
name issue, it's a money issue.
No, it's a name issue.
It's no.
So I'm
I
gonna
can-
stop.
I can
for a
look
second.
and see what it is and we can
So-
get to where-
We're going to move forward because we're not going to continue that direction. So, Chief, as the mayor, I rely heavily on you to be the expert in your field to determine what your budget needs to look like. If we need to look at names and things like that, we can do that. But also, I will go out on a limb and say, I have no problem with throwing myself out there. I know that all of the department heads that are sitting at this table, you all are very diligent with our finances, with what we have going on. So we can go back and forth about the name issue, but I feel like that is an unnecessary use of our time at this point in time. And I can tell that that is causing some challenge here. And that challenge is not going to completely take over our budget session. So whether we choose to change the name, or Chief, you put chairs in areas wherever we need to put it, I'm at least going to say I've watched you and fire chief and our public works director be very diligent as much as you guys can with your departments and your budgets, because that's what you guys do 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So if the name issue is an issue, we can figure that out. But I do rely heavily on you guys to tell me where the budget is going and where our finances are going. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Jail fees, 85,000.
Thank you, sir.
Can't plan for crime, we have to incarcerate people. That's what the,
Was that the
These
same
fees
as?
are different than the court, right?
That's what I was
Yep,
curious,
totally
if that's,
different.
that's different.
so the court and I
That's
back and
another-
forth. So the records clerk and the court would go back and forth. We have to reconcile with who's been arrested. And then there's arrested booking on our end, but then if the jail is, or the court has sentenced them, then that's a whole different budget.
Okay.
So two different budgets. Because a lot of times we arrest people and through the court process, they don't necessarily get court time either. So it is what it is.
So do you think that's enough, chief, with the fees went up? Because I'm sure crime's gonna go down, don't you think?
No, crime, honestly, I can't predict it. So what I used is I looked at what we've spent for the year with a projection model of where we're currently at. But honestly, like it goes in waves. We could see a downturn, we could see an upturn. Honestly, like it could fluctuate mid-year. I could say we need to do a budget amendment and add
Yeah.
30,000. I don't know. Like,
Because I was just looking at you got like 85, 81, 87. I
you know,
I
like,
don't know, 90 or 95 doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
yeah, like, cause 2021, you'll see it was at 63,000,
Yeah.
but that's a COVID year. I didn't arrest a bunch of people, then we went back up. You know, the courts and I had a discussion about holding some people accountable that have been blowing the system off for a long, long time. So with that, warrants are gonna be coming out, we're gonna be arresting people, like, so I know that we'll probably see an increase. I could see that we need an increase, but I'm gonna stay cautious right now because I think it'd be easier to do a budget amendment down the road if we see the increase versus right now, in my opinion. PSCC fees, 149.
What is that? I'm sorry.
PSCC?
Yes.
Dispatch.
Dispatch,
So
okay.
anytime somebody calls dispatch and says, I have a problem, they create a call. When they create the call, we get billed for it.
Okay.
And so I haven't picked on Councilman Fleshman here today, so
Does
if
anybody
he
else
calls
want a
to complain
sandwich
about his
before we-
neighbor's rabbits barking too long at night,
Yes.
we get billed $15 for the call being created for Andy or an officer responding depending on what time of day it is. So again,
What top is it?
is 149,000 enough? I don't know. I'd like to say it is. It could go up, it could go down. It just depends on the call volume.
Yeah,
Is
I
to-
had no idea what PSCC
Yeah.
standed for. I was like,
Yeah, like, you know, we
Like, I
budgeted
don't know.
177 and I didn't bring my funky little form up, but I know that we haven't spent 177 and on the projection of what was given to me, of what we have spent, it doesn't look like we're gonna reach 177. So that's why I based 149,000 was on our current projection. It's right there. Oh yeah, what do you have on there? 149,000. So I think that's where I went based off their,
You'll be town of Evansville.
yeah, town of Evansville right here. So
149.
yeah, 152. So which went online with what we're being billed right now. So that's why I put it in.
So is there a difference in that fee, 911 versus the non-emergency? Are they the same?
So PSCC is if Scott calls 911 because Candace is beating him up with a frying pan,
Yeah.
we get $15. If Robert calls because
Hey.
Alana's mad that she shut his water off, it doesn't matter. We just get billed no matter whether you call 911 or Leo calls because Dacia's looking at him funny through the window or
So
something.
if he calls 235-8278, it's the same bill.
Yep, 911,
It
non-emergent.
doesn't matter if you call the Evansville line, the Casper line, the county line, the 911 line, it all goes to the same
Dacia
place.
calls in Casper and it starts as a Casper call, but they figure out that it's actually an Evansville jurisdiction, we get billed because then it comes to us. So in that world of PSCC. Probably the hot topic of the evening, animal control.
that's our officer or the building?
That, neither. So
Oh.
animal control is not officer or building. Animal control right now is the 30-some thousand we pay to Casper, whether we have a dog there or not. It pays for dog food, dog treats, leashes, the things that Brandy needs to do her job, whether it's, replacement. Like she carries blankets and stuff in there for certain events, things like that. So that's what that covers. Now, us moving to our own facility, so we,
Do you want that still?
no, okay. So
Goes with my
us moving to
paperwork.
our own facility,
My
so
OCD.
come July 31, which you all got the letter from Casper, we're done with them, right? So I talked to the chief in Glen Rock, we're gonna use their facilities temporarily till our facility is here and up and running. A short time period, so we'll have
When does that start?
the process started, so Shane with WLCC has started working up the bid process for the building,
I met with Metro going Millmar.
July 31st,
At 5 o'clock.
5
Oh,
o'clock
really?
PM.
They're being very specific about this.
Okay.
Everybody knows this date.
Honestly, I'll
I
probably
didn't
try to
receive the
start
letter, so that's why I was
moving.
curious.
We're
What-
taking our
what
dogs
was
to
the date?
Glen Rock prior to this,
Yeah,
because obviously if we put a dog in there July 30th, and then we have to be done July 31st, it doesn't make any sense. So we'll probably look 2 weeks prior to this. Any dogs we intake that need to go to shelter, we're gonna start taking down there so we don't deal with this deadline issue. So we'll have a small expense to Glen Rock for care and things like that. After that, we have our own facilities, which outside of utilities, which probably is gonna be
Minuscule.
somewhere 10 to 12,000, I would guess, and that's probably on the high end right now in my estimate. But the rest of this line item, what I would like to talk about is using towards paying part-time people, whether it be an employee from another department who wants to do a little extra. It may not be in their job description, but it's a separate line item. Talk to Scott about this and the legalities of things, whether it be overtime or not, so we'll work that out if we can or not. But Brandy and the PD guys can't be always there to care for animals, so if people in the community, Lana, I'll use you, our council lady, as an
I
example.
prefer Alana, that's fine.
If you step forward and said, yeah, I would like, if we, like on weekends, because Brandy needs her time off,
Right.
if officers are out dealing with murders and rapes or, whatever they're dealing with, obviously they can't always focus just on the animal. So I'd like to have a network of people that we can pay on a part-time basis, and by part-time, we don't have to worry about insurance and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if Leo, for instance, after hours, as an example, as a citizen, pretend he's not the fire chief, he's just citizen John Q. Leo, right? Says, yeah, I actually like puppies, and when you have dogs in the facility on the weekends, I'd be more than happy to come clean, feed, water, exercise, etc. And if it's 1 or 2 dogs, it's gonna be 1 or 2 hours. If it's 5 dogs, it'll be 3 hours. But if we paid, $18, $20 an hour for them to help take care of them, is what I'd like to do with the extra funds. And I'd like about 20,000 for that pool is what I'm
Yeah,
looking for.
absolutely, gotta have somebody that,
So,
we can't rely on our officers to be taking care of the animals when truly they have other things to be doing.
and so with that 38, that's kind of what I have in mind. Didn't really put it in the paperwork because I have way too much other stuff going on in my world right now that I had time to type all this out. I pissed off the lawyer lady today because I told her that she's gonna have to wait till next week to get her records because I don't have time. So with that, I'll finish if we want to getting through it, then we can have discussion about it. Office equipment, so we bought a new copier. That's what that was for in the prior, so that's why it's 0. Vehicles, and Lexi, of course, ran off on me. So the vehicle stuff, what you see currently is lease payments. Lexi and I had a discussion about using the extra funds that I have in the current budget with being short a couple of people to pay off the leases, moving and purchasing 2 outright vehicles, and she put it in capital outlay. I don't know if she talked about that earlier or not. So that's why that line went from 45 to 0 and why those numbers are there. The insurance, property equipment.
Will that number go up because won't you have to outfit them as far as the lights and sirens?
Right, which is, and these are just the lease payments.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, these are just lease, but hey,
Yeah.
lady, when you come back. So we talked about putting that into capital outlay, which is somewhere else, not in my budget.
The 1 cent,
1 cent,
Oh, okay,
yes, sorry.
okay.
1 cent purchase.
Yes, 2. He's got the notes here. So the idea is 2, because to keep the fleet current, up to date, and not be eaten up on maintenance costs, we need to be doing between 2 and 3 a year updating. The idea in the upcoming budget is our investigator's car, which is 13, almost 14 years old now, is updating that one, and then one of the patrol units, which a Charger is, right now, one of the Chargers on the mark to go away unless one of the Fords has more costs, and then I may prioritize getting one of the Fords out sooner. The maintenance service agreement, that is for the copier. We spend $70 or $7 a month, and they service the copier and what have you. So we talked about the vehicle side and moving from the leases to budgeting the 2 capital stuff. So
Yes.
so with that, if you want to have discussions and custom discuss.
That's over here on this sheet for
We
please.
get over there. Okay, just a couple things really quick. Sorry if I upset you. I
All right.
didn't mean to.
Yeah.
We can work, it'll work out. It'll work out. I know the chief and I had some discussions before, but in my humble opinion, we should be purchasing 2 new vehicles every year.
We're
And
budgeted
that's
for 2
kind of
next
what
year.
you and I had talked about, and I think that's awesome. And
One of the few times we agree on money
we,
spending.
yes.
It'll never happen again.
Never.
Write down today's date.
And part of that comes back to is just the cost of repairs on vehicles is just nuts. And if you could even get the parts, I just had some work done on my car, and it took 10 days to just get the parts. And then it was like
Well,
insane.
Yeah, and the thing about vehicles, when I got here, they had Crown Vics that were dying on the way to calls. They had to pull over, put in park, restart the cars. There
Give
was a lot of
shots.
expense, and
They were special.
it's a difficult thing because the public says, "Oh, why are you getting new cars?" And because as a public person, you have your own budget, and not everybody can go out and buy cars. But in our world of public services, they also expect us to respond when they call for us, and they don't always understand that keeping the fleet modern and up to date is part of making sure we can respond to the emergency calls for service that come in. And
You mean you need a vehicle to keep up with a high-speed chase?
well, right,
No Ubering to calls.
and beyond the service to the public, if you have a bunch of outdated, worn out looking equipment, people don't want to work for you either. So it goes towards recruitment and retention of your personnel. If Leo was still running around in horse and buggy fire engines, we wouldn't have firemen. And sometimes the public doesn't understand it in today's world, especially in the last 3 years, it's near impossible to get quality people who want to be officers. We did really good holding our own. We were to staff. We had a couple of retirements. We had one who went back to a former job, and then one guy who couldn't get to the academy. And it's taken a little over a year to replace just 3 of those positions. And now that our office space is mostly back together, I'm going to start looking to advertise the one opening we have so we can hopefully be back to staff.
Sure.
So that all goes into play.
What are the additional questions,
Nothing.
thoughts?
I had one on the, where was it at? Safety equipment and uniforms, that 20,000 that it had went up quite a bit. Was that the SWAT gear that you were
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Okay, that just
That's why
wanted to,
that went up.
I just was double checking
So
that one.
I think the only, unless anybody else has different opinions, I think the animal control, whether what we want to budget there or budget at all, and overtime are the only 2 areas I think are remaining discussion.
I think your overtime I think that's needed.
Okay.
I agree with that.
The
So are we going with Lexi's
I'm speaking-
10,000 there?
I'll give you 10,000.
What, do you mean the impact?
No.
No,
Regular
that's
overtime.
right
The
here.
regular,
The 110. Okay,
We're currently 1,000, well, not looking at the
Oh.
current payroll, but we're 1,060 over the 30 as it is, so.
and then
Yeah,
just had-
Yeah, 55.
A quick thought on the animal control part, okay? I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that that can be the duty of our code enforcement and the
PD.
law enforcement and that type of thing. They can help out, but I guess one of the things I had thought of is there's a lot of people that are like vet techs. They work in, like places like Urban Tales and places like that. Well, those people don't make squat. I mean, and I think it might be cleaner if we could get somebody that we could hire on an hourly basis or whatever and have them just be on call that says, hey, we need you to come in this weekend or whatever, and find somebody that's, recommended, I guess, and then we could budget for that. I don't know what kind of an hourly rate that would take, or if it's.
That was part of the thought process. So Brandy and I have started compiling the idea of a mix of volunteers and paid, like some
Sure.
people want to volunteer. So it's a mixture. If we can get one person who is reliable, but I'd like to look at two, because Janelle might, actually I'll use Jan for an example. So Jan may want to do it after hours, which may take Scott getting involved with things, but if Jan wants to do it, as an example.
Only as a volunteer.
See, that's where we get into the muddy waters. And-
Which,
Because
okay,
it's
maybe I'll use
overtime.
somebody other than Jan. So, okay, let's use
Use
somebody.
me, use me.
Use you. You're not an
Gentlemen,
employee of
can
the
we-
town without
Can we
getting,
keep moving
weeds
forward
of
on
it.
the budget discussion, please?
okay, so without getting into weeds of things that can't
Right,
happen
right,
without
right.
things, but
Right,
if she's busy on the weekend,
Then
maybe
Alana
Greg
can
or
do it.
Lana, so I'd like to have at least two people that are reliable to, have on a paid basis to help on weekends and et cetera.
so maybe it would be helpful if we broke that animal control down into maybe some kind of a part of it for wages and part of it for the regular maintenance, like,
Oh, and I,
is that okay?
yeah,
Does that
absolutely.
make sense?
I think that it makes sense to put some line item in personnel to cover that.
Yeah,
And separate. I
Right.
agree with that,
okay, and
unless Lexi disagrees with me.
So we're adding more positions or?
No,
No, he took, what I think I heard him say was just maybe instead of the animal control, maybe put something like animal control supplies, animal control, like wages for
Tech.
for
for
whoever.
volunteer,
Yeah.
like,
Just so they're separate.
Kennel
Yeah.
tech.
so that
It'd be
they're
considered,
separated.
tech kennel would be that would be the name of that
Kennel,
person.
we could say
Kennel
kennel
tech.
care.
Right.
Kennel
It'd be
tech
better
is
Kennel
like,
care.
it-
kennel care, yeah.
that would be the correct
On
term.
a part-time basis, then they don't have to
I'm
deal with.
just confused as to where we're going with this.
He, instead of,
Because we're already paying for Brandy's position.
You were.
no, you
You
were
were-
out, but we were talking like, let's say that those people are off. And let's say one weekend I can do it, like I'm doing it and they have a couple animals versus the next weekend I'm going out of town and let's say Alana's like, oh, well, I'll do it.
So to catch you up, we were talking
those-
about the animal control line, that 30-some thousand of it goes to paying Casper. Once we have our own facility, we're not having to pay Casper for sheltering of animals. So the money that we would normally be spending on Casper, what I want to do is take that money for people like, and I'm gonna use these two. So if they're somebody, whether it be a Casper Evansville resident, that we could pay part-time, so, because Brandy can't do it 24/7. Officers, if they're on emergent calls, so looking at the care of animals, when we have dogs in there, that we have some people that we can pay to help care for said animals when we have them in the facility.
But I got a question for you on that really quick. With that number, didn't we say that number that we were normally paying to that other entity, would that go towards the payment on that structure?
No. So paying for structure outright.
No, I know, but, so we're not doing it out of the loan, we're just doing it, hey, how much
Yes.
is it? There you go, like
Yes.
that?
Well, she,
Okay.
I think,
Capital.
what she was saying was, she was under the impression, if I heard this correctly,
We did,
that
have that discussion. Since
Okay.
that discussion between the mayor and
Sorry, I
Lexi,
slept since then. I'm
it's
behind.
all right, we've all slept since that discussion.
Right.
So since that discussion, because I did bring up as a way to fund
Yeah.
that, but money in the budget can pay for it outright.
Okay,
So
okay.
with the 38.4 that's in the line item for animal care, because we spend 2,500-ish, whatever,
Right.
per month.
Okay.
Casper. So that amount of money minus the other
Uh-huh.
stuff, I would like to put towards
Okay,
paying some people on a very part-time basis to help care for animals.
Agreed.
So pretty much operational expenses, whether we pay it Metro or pay.
Right.
Okay,
Pretty much.
okay,
Can I ask,
next
a-
line. No.
this is a little bit, I just need a really brief deal. When that lady came in and was talking about the dog bite thing, and I don't want to get into that, but is what I have the question about is she said something about that we cannot vaccinate animals for 30 days? What was that about? I don't,
Well,
can we let's talk about that after.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
We need to
that's
stay
operational.
on,
Yeah,
we
that's
need to
fine.
stay on topic
Yeah,
with
that's a-
budget.
Stay on budget.
yeah,
That's what this
I-
work session's
I'll
about.
explain that
Well,
later, that's not a
it's got
budget.
to do with that money.
What was the next one, Lexi?
Yeah,
You did
Are we done with PD?
No, I mean, unless anybody has any more questions for Mike, I'm not sure if we're done. If anybody has any other questions.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, PW,
that's right.
PW general,
EW general,
that's the general fund, that'd be Robert. You have 10 minutes for all 6 of your budgets, Robert.
Any questions? Thank you.
I move this guy's
PW.
closed.
I thought she said EW, and I'm like, what the hell is EW?
PW,
P, Public Works.
Public Works.
Public Works. Come on, get that out
So
there.
the general fund, it's pretty much the shop building, things of that nature. The only thing that I've really got going on in that area is we have our backup generator. We had it inspected a couple months ago and it was deemed needed to be repaired. So that's where the increase in repairs and maintenance building come into play.
That's what you're thinking, $8,000 will cover that, Robert? Is that
That's
right?
what I was told at the time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
First line salaries and wages are pretty good this year.
So is that just one person's wage? Or one person's,
Yeah, his department, he has 6 different departments.
okay,
So each person comes out of a different
okay,
department.
that's where I was just, I'm like, that can't be more than one person. Okay,
No, so you'll have one
I was
in,
like, that seems a little low.
in general, one in streets and alleys, one in parks, and then one in wastewater distribution and sanitation.
Okay,
So his wages are all spread out.
of the different people.
At least Leo and I keep it to one page.
Well, PW
Your
general
general is one
one.
page.
So I have a question. So, Robert, I mean, I know you run all of Public Works, so this is a personal question. Is that yours of 40? Because I don't
No.
feel like that's enough. Like
It's not.
for running of, I mean, he runs it all. He should, I mean, that, well, all of these are around 40, which I don't feel is, when it comes to salary and wages, or I've only got the 3 here. And it's like, all of those are in the 40s. And I'm like, that's not,
Well, you get into,
You got-
wastewater,
okay, so I've got
Water
the
and
parks general
sanitation.
and I've got the streets in the general is 41 and then I've got just the PW general. I mean, those are the 3.
well, then
He has
there's, then
other
you have
areas.
enterprise.
Things
Yeah, so
There's
you're in the
more.
general.
in your
I thought-
packet.
There's more.
Is there more?
Oh,
Am
yeah.
I missing
General
it?
and
2 more.
enterprise.
Another,
We're just focused
Safety
on
flip
general right now, and then
Okay.
we'll jump to enterprise.
Okay, I just was less like, he better be getting paid more than 40. That's not fair.
No, Roberts is in, are you in distribution?
It's either.
Look
is it
at me.
Distribution, I have the, I'd have to go back and look.
That one, I don't know.
Okay.
It's either
Which one are we
in
on?
wastewater distribution.
I jumped, I asked a specific question and because I was,
I want to make sure that we're staying.
yeah, I know. I just was one, well, that was a specific question that I wanted geared towards that number because why was it so small is what I have next to it
Good question.
for someone's salary.
So any questions on general for PW?
Emergency supplies.
Professional services.
And we're good.
What is
Okay.
that the same ones of kind of like everybody else's?
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, hire out contractors and that to inspect generators, cranes, lift trucks,
Okay, cool.
equipment, things of that nature.
Yeah, I just was curious. I'm like,
Drug
is-
testing, somebody gets in an accident, they gotta get sent over, it comes out of that line.
okay, perfect. That's where it's just like, I guess I kind of question marked that on some of them. I'm just like, what does that mean for you guys? Okay, thanks.
I have no questions on general fund,
Okay, streets and alleys.
general.
Can we back up one? Robert, do you need a
Nope.
tablet?
So the tablets I typed in there as a note, yes, we are
You
actually,
need one.
Yes.
Okay,
Aren't we getting one of
so PW doesn't necessarily use computers, we use
okay,
tablets.
okay. Okay, you're fine. I just,
And the cool thing is that one should be free.
Robert,
We're gonna try and, we've got several that need to be,
Yeah.
they're older, and we're gonna see about getting them for free.
Cause we
Getting
get
them
them through
all replaced.
Verizon.
getting them all replaced, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember that being the topic of conversation, that you guys need appropriate equipment to function and navigate.
Our work order system that we currently utilize was updated about a year ago, and they made it to where it no longer works on the version of Android that we use. So, of course, my guys kind of have to limp their way through the day sometimes.
We would like for your guys to not limp through the day. Just a side note, very important to have functional equipment.
now where did you say we were going, Lexi?
Streets and alleys.
Streets
Okay,
and alleys.
okay. I'm on the right page.
All right, so I got
It's
some
you.
good news on this one. If you look down towards 1062-400, repairs and maintenance, streets and alley, I increased that up to 47,000, 17,000 to fix Park Lane. That is being paid for this budget year.
So we can put that back down to 30,000,
So
Robert?
that's 30.
Yes.
Robert, can you explain what fixing Park Lane is? Because we've got a new council member.
So over the last couple of years, we've been trying really hard to get some of the potholes in there rectified here in town. It's a multiple phase project. Not only are we trying to fill potholes, but we're also trying to fill cracks and other things of that nature. The Park Lane pothole in particular is a pretty good size one, about halfway up Park Lane in between Platt Park and Copper. It pretty much goes the entire length of the entire width of the street. And it's all concrete, reinforced concrete. So that's not something our guys have the equipment or expertise to do, so we have to contract that one out. Hence the hefty price tag. And hopefully that will
Big
start,
pothole.
in July.
Start in July.
That's as soon as I can get to it.
At
We're gonna
1060,
pay for it.
Okay,
at 1062-400,
that's where I was
I
at.
have you at 10,000 under
He said they
budget for
can't get it
that,
to July,
or
till July, but I want.
9,700 under budget.
out of this
for the
budget,
current
I said we'll
budget year.
fund it in process.
Mhm.
Yes, so typically how that would work out is we'd usually be well on our way with doing asphalt this time of year. But with other things I've got going, I haven't gotten to it.
Okay,
So that's
Well,
all
it's been
start.
raining almost every day too.
So that's gonna start, excuse me, come July.
thank you.
So how did your, the website with the pothole thing, so is that where you got most of your information from, for the potholes?
No, the potholes that I'm currently working on now are the ones that were from the list of last year that you and
Okay.
I had worked on
Okay.
with social media
Sure.
posts.
Okay,
I
Perfect.
do have one on the list for this year over off of Baker Hughes and Reserve.
Okay.
That one did come out of the pothole email.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions for this fund?
I have none.
Next up is
What-
parks.
I got one quick question, What's the reimbursable expense for the 50 grand? What is that?
That's so, we'd been contracted by the state to maintain and plow the highway. And that's where that money comes from, or came from. I don't know if
Yes.
they've resumed that.
They have not yet, but we are keeping in line in hopes that maybe they will, but that,
'Cause
what
that-
usually goes in there is like the ice slice and stuff like that.
So yeah, so your road slice, our 4320s, our mowers for the highway, the big tractors.
Right.
We've purchased those out of that. Any maintenance or repairs comes out of that for those mowers.
Okay,
The highway plow, the bigger tandem axle
Right.
plow, any repairs and maintenance that needs to be done, it comes out of that line
Okay.
item as well.
perfect.
Okay, parks general fund.
This one I've tried to keep it about the same.
Under this one, is that under 1063-410? Is that the stuff for the mosquitoes?
No, that would be,
Like weed killer
yeah,
and stuff.
your weed killer,
Fertilizer.
fertilizers, things of that nature.
You may want to increase that.
Have a roundup fund?
Well, I don't know, I just went but fertilizer and it was like double. But the only place I had a question, where did I have that at? The repairs and maintenance parks. And it looks like it bounces all over the place, like one year was 22,000. You had budgeted 10 for this year, and then next year you're at 12. Is it just cost of doing stuff or?
It really depends on what all is going on in the neighborhood, pretty much.
Okay,
Was some of it shelters?
Yes.
I was
Down
gonna
at the
say
river park.
shelters,
100 years. You know, all that mowing, all that
so
road
Yeah.
base.
repairs to some of the equipment, various things.
isn't there like, don't we have to move that bus stop thing up there on the cart path or something? Or on the walking path? Wasn't that?
I think that was actually part of the Lathrop, I'm assuming you're speaking of the one over by the gambling center.
Right.
I believe that's part of the Lathrop
The
pathway
later whole
project.
thing? Oh, okay. So they're taking care of that, correct?
As far as I remember,
Okay.
yes.
I couldn't remember either. Okay,
Okay, give it to me, good.
Okay, any more questions on that one? Okay, that concludes the general fund, so now we'll move on to the enterprise fund. Okay, so we are gonna
Does it say enterprise fund revenue?
Alana?
It says wastewater enterprise
We're
fund.
gonna go to
below
wastewater
that.
enterprise. This is what we're bringing in for utilities, so water, sewer. That's what you're looking at, Keisha, is that one.
This one?
No, that's the one you were looking at, we're going to wastewater.
Wastewater, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
The enterprise fund revenue is what we bring in for utility bills.
Okay.
So this is another one that likes to bounce around quite a bit, just so everybody's aware, because a lot of it is, unfortunately, we have some aging infrastructure and some years are a lot worse than others.
Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but the aging infrastructure is something that we will have to continue to focus on in the coming years.
That would be correct. I don't have numbers put aside as of now, but just so everyone's aware, so it doesn't come as a shock
Station.
next year. We've got lift stations that needs to be taken care of. We have a couple of clay tile lines that I need to work with Shane here to get some pricing on. We have a couple of drop joints that need to be rectified. And we have some manholes that are entirely deteriorating due to the 201 off-gassing of H2S.
The 201 sewer charges, is that like you guys cleaning the sewers?
No, so the
or-
201 sewer charge is what the city of Casper charges us to treat the sewage.
Is that lift station in here? In here? No, okay.
So are the bank charges and stuff, is that part of our new deal where that should drop down, or is that gonna stay the same? Cause it's at 3,500.
I would say we could drop that down to 2,500.
So with the telephone being at 3,000, how many telephones is that?
So I'm not sure on that one. Is the telephone or the lift station's communication included in telephone? So that's probably what it is, your lift station communications.
That's correct, isn't it, Lexi? The dialers, yeah. Mission controls. After I said that, I started questioning myself. But yeah, mission control.
When it comes to his budgets, and I'm like.
Mhm.
Any additional questions?
Okay, next one is water distribution in the enterprise fund.
Again, I tried to keep this the same. I do have a wish list item down here at 50, 75, 783. So what I've been doing in years past is I've been purchasing meter pits and replacing some of our aging infrastructure with those. What your meter pits are is some properties here in town, the meters aren't inside the home. They're actually outside underground. And with these newer pits, it allows the meter to sit at the bottom of the hole while it's not being worked on. And then when you work on it, you can pull the meter up, do the work you need to do, and drop it back down. And that helps tremendously with freeze ups.
With the equipment expense, about 3/4 of the way down. Like, are they needing to buy new equipment or?
Those are repairs and maintenance. So if something happens to my backhoe or a loader, and so your equipment expense is also shared with water distribution, sanitary. It's shared between all my various departments because we use, a lot of our equipment is used
Between
throughout various
street, sewer,
departments.
and
So
water.
your equipment expense is gonna be high in some areas and low in others.
Okay, I just was curious if it was like a new machine that was needing to be purchased and what it was.
So, Robert, on that 50, 75, 400, which is repairs and maintenance distribution, if you go across there, our average has been at 20K, and now you're down to 10. Do you think the 10's enough? This is on, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Water distribution?
I'm on water distribution, and it's repairs and maintenance distribution.
gonna answer my question. I'm gonna answer your question, and my guys are not gonna be happy with me.
Okay,
We've been lucky up to this point.
That's your water
That's one of those
mains.
questions I don't like answering, because usually you give the answer and something happens.
so do
I love
we
that
need
we're
to
all
put that at
superstitious.
20? I'm guessing, do we need to put that at 20?
So far, we've been, like I said, we've been really lucky.
I know, but we weren't lucky in like 3 previous years or 4 previous years.
I mean, we could up it now, or we can do a budget amendment if
And if
something.
something comes up,
we can
okay,
amend.
I'm good with that. I just,
Yeah, that's when he would be reaching out to you guys going, hey, this was an unforeseen expense.
Hey, remember when you were talking to me saying that we
Yeah.
should increase this a
And
little
I'll
bit?
get-
And we
When
said
we're
we
all
were
knocked
doing
on
really good. Can you
And I'll
approve for
probably
me
get-
to spend another $10,000?
yeah, and I'll get amnesia and, you know,
So kind of like you say, you can't budget for everything.
Right.
Sometimes we put what we.
Any additional questions? Thoughts? Comments?
Okay, and Robert's last one, sanitation under enterprise.
So this is another one that the budget's relatively simple, as long as the trucks hold together okay. I do have an ask down towards the bottom at 5076,783. And that ask is to buy material, raw material, sheet metal, plastic lids, roller bar, to start rehabbing some of our larger bins and some of our older rollouts.
I think that that's necessary for your guys' jobs and
Yeah, for sure.
what you
is
guys
that
need
like,
to do.
what do you put chemicals and stuff in there, or what kind
No,
of bins you
we,
talking about?
we are actually disassembling, we have rollouts, and 90-gallon rollouts is, I believe, is what you use on your property. We've got a 1.5 yard bin, which is,
Oh, okay, you're talking about the garbage cans?
Yes.
Okay, okay, perfect. So you're talking about redoing some of the big ones?
yes, like
Okay,
cutting out
perfect.
bottoms, putting on new lids,
Yep. Okay.
new
Maybe
hooks.
this was a different piece, a different ledger. Were you gonna possibly start looking at rotating your vehicles as well?
Yes, we were going to try.
Is that in a different page?
I don't have an ask for a new vehicle because I got a new vehicle earlier this year.
I know, but there was another vehicle that was needing some,
We've got several.
I know, but I'm saying, were you not maybe
So
gonna?
right now, I've got a dump truck up for a grant. I'm waiting to hear back on that.
But no, a different truck. It's a,
Vehicles.
yeah, it's a different truck that pulls the,
The Dodge.
yeah. Were you not gonna, not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still,
Maybe I
we just,
spoke too
we
soon.
just recently had the transmission rebuilt on that. And like I said, I was gonna ask for a new vehicle, but I got one earlier this year, so.
He's being humble.
This might be a Lexi question. So wake up.
I like that you say my name before you ask, because when I sit too long, I zone out.
Have we, in our budgets and stuff, have there been like increases coming back for our insurance for like the buildings and the autos?
That's a Janelle.
Oh,
question.
Janelle question, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I recently,
wrong
yeah.
one.
Looking by right.
Proper liability did go up and property did go up too.
Okay. So, and then how do we insure our vehicles? Our vehicles,
Well, so they're covered under local LGLP for liability, and then they're covered under WARM for property.
for property, have those costs gone up?
Yeah, property went up, liability and property
Oh,
went
okay.
up. Yeah.
On the buildings too,
Mhm.
and that's all,
No, because I just got the bill last week.
okay.
Yeah.
'Cause
We
gonna-
just paid the liability last week, and I just got the property last week.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if you haven't, you're going to.
Yeah.
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 This one is Robert's salary. Talk to me, Goose.
We're good.
Okay, any questions on sanitation? Okay, last one is water treatment. And that's Jim's budget. So if you guys wanna browse through it, if you have any questions, me or Robert or Janelle can answer. Because Jim didn't know that. the work session tonight, apparently.
Jim is elsewhere at this moment in time, so if anybody has any questions, we will fill in.
I think the only one I had is our professional services.
Our audits in that one,
Mhm.
Is that where the audit's at?
a portion of the
A
audit,
portion
yeah.
of it with $33,000.
And then, is
There
there
was that-
Hawk?
Yeah,
Hawk,
they're,
the
so
Hawk.
For
he
their
spoke with a
controls.
representative a couple of months ago when we first started talking budgets, and the gentleman come in and quoted Jim with total replacement rather than maintenance costs on some of the treatment facilities equipment.
Okay,
Is
So if
that what it
something,
was?
something were to go wrong with a piece of equipment, they just replace it rather than come and,
And it took a
fix it.
pretty good jump.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, because I see it,
It's
yeah.
like a yearly maintenance agreement,
Okay.
basically.
They come in and calibrate it, but if they're older pieces of testing equipment, and if they die, then it will be replaced.
Is it just
So-
one person that works down there?
Three.
Three.
And then on the maintenance and service agreements, those like tripled?
Which line is
Yeah, can you
that?
tell us-
Oh, is that on the
It's
other
on the
side?
back,
Oh.
turn it over. It's,
I was like, where you at?
5074, 874.
Maybe
No,
that was the
I'm sorry,
Hawk equipment.
871.
That may have been, no,
No,
because that's not
874.
enough for the hockey equipment, because the hockey equipment really took a jump.
Yeah.
I don't, well, that copier, he's got that copier printer down there. I know that's on the maintenance.
Yep.
I don't know, it just seems like it was
There
like,
may be something on the pumps.
yeah, that's
Well,
what I
we
was,
did have the failure of BST.
but it's some kind of a service agreement, so if we signed up for something new or, I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird because it used to be 3,500 and then he budgeted last year for 7,500 and all of a sudden now it's 10,000.
I can't,
It made my highlight list.
yeah.
My apologies, I don't remember.
Okay,
I don't remember I know we talked about the Hawk, I know we talked about the BST pump failure,
There were some valves in there.
some valves. But that should all be under repairs and maintenance, not,
Okay. Lexi's gonna
yeah,
go see.
that
if
should
we
be
can
under the
figure out.
repairs
Okay,
and
all right.
maintenance.
that's all I had on that.
Cause I know on that Hawk, I mean, it was a big jump,
Is
and that's not enough to cover it.
they pretty much quoted to replace everything in the plant would be my assumption.
Yeah, it was huge.
Because aren't they supposed to be doing some big repair down there that was like $1 million or something? At the water plant?
Which one?
Which one? I
So currently they are working on emergency connection,
right,
which is tying City of Casper into Home Depot tank.
right.
They're working on getting filters replaced. That's gonna be a pretty,
That's gonna be big.
that's gonna be a pretty penny.
We did apply for a grant, an ARPA grant,
Right,
to replace the filter train.
okay.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the meeting I was at.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they were talking.
Cause
about that.
that was $1 million.
And then
I
there's
think that was $1
the
million.
recoating of the tanks.
Recoating of the tanks, yeah.
We've got that coming too.
Okay. One other thing with and this may be on the revenue side or something, but when those filters and the lifts, is it, if I'm understanding this right, the sewage, when it goes to the lift station, and somebody puts diapers down there or whatever, they get caught up in that. That gets caught up in the lift station, right? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, technically it can get caught up anywhere.
but that's usually
The
where,
primary place is the lift station, yes.
okay. So do we have any way of tracing that back to where that came from?
So, yes and no. I can narrow it down to the neighborhood, but that is it.
Okay,
And there is a lift station in particular, we have taken remediary steps to help prevent that. And what we have done is we installed a special kind of blade.
okay,
So as your impeller is spinning, all that material is catching on a small blade and it just shreds it
Okay.
to bits.
okay,
Which is a good thing and a bad thing, because the bad part about that is it's starting to get caught up in our check valves. And what your check valves do is they shut down each side of the pump to prevent the pump from discharging.
okay. So is there any kind of a penalty in place if somebody does something like that?
Yeah, they're gonna have an extremely expensive repairman bill.
The problem is figuring out exactly. where-
Exactly
Yeah,
where
I
it
would say
came from.
you can figure out exacts.
And unfortunately, the people that are gonna pay the price for that are not the people
That
doing it.
Yeah,
The
Especially if
people
they
that are
have a
gonna pay the
basement.
price are gonna be the first 3 or 4 houses right there at the lift station.
okay,
That happened not too long ago.
yeah.
About a year ago.
Then don't they, never mind.
It seems like you had that happen on a
Which one
weekend here,
was
like a month or so ago, didn't you?
2 weeks ago.
Okay,
Staying on track.
But everything stayed in the sewer main. Nothing come out in nobody's house.
okay. I was just kind of wondering.
You're being humble, that's because you and your public works crew
We're right there.
raced over here into Evansville and got it handled very quickly. That situation could have gotten really out of hand very fast.
So that's where those alarms come in. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
You're doing great work, sir.
Thank you. We do what we can.
Do we have any other questions for water treatment? Lexi, did you find some info?
The maintenance service, that's where Hawk and then he has Ingersoll. So I don't know if the professional services, is he replacing a pump?
The crane.
I would say the crane for the pump
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
to take it out and
FPST.
then put it back in.
yep.
Sounds about right.
I think that's what he
Cause he's
wanted.
been talking about the crane.
So I
to
don't
pull
know
that
if he
pump
reflected
at
in
the
that big hawk.
intake.
No, because he said he was gonna go back and.
That's why.
Yeah.
that would go up to
Negotiate.
the crane.
This was his big one he gave us.
Which
right?
should be happening soon, so if any of you council members are interested in watching an interesting cartoon show, I can let you know when it happens.
Okay.
We look forward to that email.
But he didn't.
I do have one concern though, on all the water treatment, water distribution, wastewater, you're under budget quite a bit. I mean, 20-30%.
If I don't,
I see small tools, a lot of zero, we give them about tools
Again.
in 2020. I mean,
well,
but-
that's fixing to change, to be
Okay,
honest.
well, I
'cause
we're giving you this and the budget's going up, but you're not spending what you're getting. So,
I try not to spend it unless I absolutely have to.
I get it, thank you, but yeah, if they need tools, get them tools. They need first aid, if they need safety supplies.
They need first aid, send them over to Leah.
Go spend some
I
money,
just want to
Robert.
make sure they have the tools they need to get the job done.
We can do just fine with surplus.
You're telling you not to be as frugal as you have been.
I've gathered.
All right. We got one left? Or am I just?
That's the revenue. Just for informational, I mean, if anybody wants to see what.
I have two things. we
Yep,
need
I
to
know.
get back to. First one I forgot to cover is cap. So last year we budgeted 3,000 for cap, and we had the big discussion about YCC cap and all that stuff. So A couple statistics. So I asked Stacy, who runs CAP, some questions. One of those is about how much does it cost per kid that goes through a forensic interview. So it's about $350 per child. And then I asked how many we've had there. I asked the last 12 months, but she gave me a year and a half, which we've had 11 kids in a year and a half go through. So that would be $3,850. Do we want to look at upping from 3,000 to potentially 4,000 to cover? Because again, I can't predict how many kids are gonna be at CAP, but we are seeing an increase there.
What
And
are our current numbers?
11 right now,
What were our numbers last year?
I recall. But of all the things funded between, if we were to debate YCC and CAP, CAP is my pick because they are more valuable and resource to us because it deals with victims of either domestic, sex abuse, et cetera. And they help immensely with our cases and making victims whole.
And we utilize them.
What number is that?
What line item is cap?
Well, that's another good question, which goes back to.
Miscellaneous.
Shoot,
Oh,
Dick.
don't think that word.
So
We just got that taken care of.
almost.
All right, we're moving forward.
Is it
Almost.
under your dues and registrations maybe?
Well, if it is, we'll need to up the dues and subscriptions if we're putting it under that line item. Because I think I'm already 4,000 over because we have a due that tends to be mid-cycle that I've missed because I was looking at that. So if we put it in dues or we put it in professional
Let me
services,
go look and see
I like
where,
professional services.
Professional
If
services.
we're gonna put it in there,
What do we put the YCC stuff under?
I don't know what you put it under. 'Cause
What do you
it's not
general
my budget.
government dues and
General
subscriptions.
government.
I feel like professional services because we use them as that.
Why wouldn't both of those go under that then?
Because YCC isn't falling under me. We
Okay,
truly don't
Okay,
utilize
it's
them
more
on our
about-
end.
okay.
So, like,
For the
YCC's
donation.
more of a
Oh,
community.
so
But CAP,
Okay.
CAP does follow under you though.
So
Yes.
YCC is in general government and cap is under the police department? Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm clear.
Let me
yes,
go
Now
look
I'm
and
clear.
see where caps.
Clear as mud.
Falling.
okay.
It might
It
be
makes
under.
sense to me, professional services, but
Well, she's looking to see where CAP currently is under.
I mean, it could.
I hate to bring back a
Well,
tough topic, but I'm gonna bring it back because Leo and I, so like Halloween, Christmas, we buy candy for kids and parades and we have certain things for the haunted house, which is a public thing.
And
I
that stuff's
typically have been putting
expensive.
that under miscellaneous, but if we're gonna change that, do we need to create a line item specific for,
Candy,
Community outreach.
candy, Mike's candy.
I don't know, like, if
I
we're gonna
like-
have
I
that
like-
discussion, I'd rather have it
Lexi-
now. and work
I
it
like
out.
Greg's
Where do you
idea.
pull- Where do you pull
Everybody
like
does.
our
Community outreach.
popcorn?
Yeah.
Where do
community
you
outreach,
pull our
okay.
popcorn?
Because that's
from?
what
Yes.
technically
Out
we're
of
doing.
Okay,
Yeah, because you.
We're
do that
engaging
stuff
with
at
the community.
schools and stuff like
So
that.
Mike,
don't
I
do
just
that.
asked the
Alright,
question.
So,
Lexi said she pulls it out of office supplies.
No, for him, he
child
puts
advocacy
his
project,
Miscellaneous.
miscellaneous.
Okay.
I don't use that line item, so mine
So-
comes out of office supplies.
At the end of the day,
yeah, it's
bottom line
professional
is
services.
Professional
so that's what
services.
it's at. Okay, so then we'll need to up the professional line item if we're gonna put it in here, because that also covers psyche valves and things like that. So
For kids?
For
Yeah. Okay, so psyche valves for pre-employments, things like that,
And cap?
and then CAP is a professional service, so it's all in one line item.
Yep.
So we'll need to up that line.
so
Okay.
you want 4,000 to cap,
I think it's reasonable.
so we're gonna have to do like 5,000 in that line item. Cause you're drug testing, anybody that you
Right.
hire, background checks.
Yes, probably, well, it's 3 currently, and so psyche valves are, well, they were 550, but they went up to 7, so I can't predict how many psyche valves we do, because it depends on how many candidates we try to get through the thing, and our last position, I think I did 3 before we found a qualified person, so a part of me says 8,000 in professional services
Give you 7,999
and 1 penny,
75.
and 99 cents.
I don't care.
We'll round it up to 8,000, Mike.
Okay, so professional services, okay, 8,000, I'm good with that, because that addresses, are you guys good with 4,000 cap?
I got a question.
Yes, sir,
What has it been before?
Oh, 4,000 will be cap?
4,000
did,
cap unless they think something different.
What was cap?
child advocacy
No, I
project.
know that part.
Oh, 3,000 is what we budgeted last year.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's all,
we
okay.
just
Okay.
paid 3,000.
And so,
I know what it is.
Cap, something we can pay quarterly.
I know, I could
think of
I
it.
had to take check.
All I could think of
So
is
we can kind
cat.
of pay as we
Cas-
go.
what she does is
I
she
can't
sends
find
an invoice for the year.
Oh, I-
Yes,
Okay.
because what'll happen is,
Get a big influx and we're over budget, or if we're.
Well,
like-
and we're not required to pay this per kid by any means. It's more of a
It's a starting
donation.
point.
It's a donation point, but I feel that it's justified because we may have 10 kids this month, we may have one kid, I don't know, like, we don't know. So we can give them 4,000, and if we have 10 kids, we're ahead of the game, but we use them a lot. Coming back to, since we resolved that, community outreach, because it's joint between Leo and I and a lot of these things. Do we want it in both of our budgets? Do we want it in one line item? Because if we're gonna create that community outreach, we need a budget line.
Is this in addition to cap
No, this is
No,
a different
separate.
section.
Separate.
So coming back, because
miscellaneous?
when we're talking,
Well,
no,
but that's, he has a valid point here, because
Yes.
right, because that's where I was
Community
getting.
outreach.
we were pulling candy and popcorn and for haunted house. for
Oh,
Santa
I see.
Haunted
Claus.
house
Okay.
and,
I
you
missed,
know,
Patrol
I missed
cars.
that somewhere. I must have been looking for.
Yeah,
For what?
patrol cars, when they're, like, when they come by and
Oh.
see my kid, my
Yeah,
Fosters.
the
So-
candy, the popcorn,
I think
Yeah.
the town clerk has a lot of community outreach too.
the haunted house.
I do?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
and
do?
And it's a
I
big
think
part of our
Candace put that
community.
line
one,
item
so-
in
Well,
there
I know
for-
one department.
So if we're going to
Oh.
create that line to put
Correct.
those things in a line, if we're gonna talk about naming lines and accountability, well, then we need to have a discussion about, do we put it, where do we put it? Do we have two separate lines?
Right. Because typically
And
the
how much
PD
are
and
we
the
gonna
fire, being honest,
They could work together on that.
we worked together on Halloween and Christmas, and Mike and I typically, he'll go buy candy, I'll go buy candy, we talk about it, so we're both
Fall to
purchasing.
school, like,
But we're both purchasing like equal amounts, it's just coming out of each of our budgets.
he puts it in office supplies and I put it in miscellaneous.
So do we want a line item in both of our budgets? Do you want just one of us to have that line item? I guess that's a very real question.
I think
I
we
think
should
you
keep
both-
it separate
Separate.
and
In a public works line item too.
That way we can
Line
contribute.
item in
I
each
won't be
budget.
handing out candy from the equipment, but I
No,
can help
but-
pay for it.
Line item.
Lexi, I don't know
Well, but
what that,
general,
It's
it's
a
all
line,
coming
yeah.
from the general fund.
the money's coming from the same place, but if we're
Technically, we
doing
could put it-
accountability,
I think you should just split it between you two.
the three want
just
to do
need-
it.
we
Well,
just need,
Technically,
I
we
don't
could
think
just put it
public
in
works
general
needs to.
government.
Robert's
He
got
wants
enough.
to.
143
Well, but he's
something.
got six
Anything you guys
funds.
do with,
Right, but he's saying he wants to be
And that
part
would
of
be
it.
I know, but
And,
it's.
cause it's all coming from
six
the
funds.
general
instead
fund.
of
Then you're
going
gonna have
your
to-
budget, we're gonna hit your budget.
You wouldn't ask for it if it
Cause
is.
it's all
then you
coming out of
have to
general
pay
fund, we can put it to general
for it.
government.
It's a line item, it could be zero, it could be $100.
so I guess
Whatever.
Lexi just fixed that. If she creates a line item in general, but in general government
Mhm.
for our candy, our haunted house, Santa Claus, when we go buy that stuff, we just tell them that it's gonna come out of
Okay.
the
Community
community
outreach.
outreach.
And that way, if
portion.
he does it, you do it, we're
Okay.
not being like, okay, now we're gonna do
So,
this budget, it's just.
Because it's a
general.
budget workshop, we need to figure out what we're gonna budget for that.
Right.
I would
Well,
rather
I
do it now
think-
and just get it over
I think
with.
we can go back and look historically, because it's generally Sam's Club, isn't it, that,
We usually get our
Different,
sevens.
well, I mean, for candy, but like
The
the
haunted
haunted
house still
house,
comes
it's a whole
from
different thing, cause, you know, we go up to the haunted
the
store
haunted
and
house
buy
store.
Halloween.
things or
Mhm.
Home
Spirit
Depot
Halloween.
for, you know, cause
Where'd you get that crazy tech thing?
Well, he's right, cause
That
like when we
technique
do the haunted
sprays
house, sometimes we
the
have to get
screaming
more
thing
of the plastic,
at Tech One.
nails,
I don't-
staples,
It's
sometimes. we
oh,
need wood.
the
Yeah.
So
girl that
tomorrow.
cut
But
down?
if you
Yeah,
want-
that was-
So we
that
don't
was
need
just
to
like,
do it
wow.
here.
That was
Tomorrow,
through
you
a
and Mike be like,
professional,
I think we could get away with
I
this,
forget
shoot
what
an
you-
email
it's,
to everybody,
I actually
and
just,
then we can
got
add
an
it in and be
email
like,
from
is
them the other
everybody
day.
good with
Yeah,
this?
like, hey,
We can
you wanna
put
get
it
some
in
more
the
stuff?
general, cause we're not making decisions tonight.
Right. So tomorrow you and I will get together, and if Robert wants to be there, he can be. We'll figure out how much we generally spend. We'll send an email out to mayor and council, what we would like to see put into the
We'll put it in
community
there because
outreach. in the general fund.
Because we're not making decisions
Right,
tonight.
we can't make
anyways.
decisions tonight, so we can come up with a number tomorrow from what we've done in the past.
20,000?
Oh, Jesus.
How much?
5,
No, in any other
Me too.
conversation, I'd say
20
I'm
grand.
with you, but
750, 750.
I'm gonna hold us accountable here.
Say,
Okay,
you don't
So,
have free
I
reign.
mean,
are there,
maybe we
any
don't
other
wanna go quite
questions?
that much, but
thank you, Lexi.
Any other questions?
Any other
I have none.
questions? Any other thoughts?
I have done.
depends on what.
Quandaries
we
of the
replace
mind.
it.
General government.
We're at 3 hours. Is everybody good?
All in favor, say aye, aye. Any opposed?
Subjective.
No,
Motion passes.
You can't do that, don't do that, not tonight.
Okay, so we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done.
At
We
8:01.
we are good at 8:01.
Still more than that.
Okay.